across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do you know something? This show is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and we've got Ben Habib coming on, who's going to be talking about Nigel Farage, Robert Jenrick, and indeed Nadeem Sahawi. But I do want to complain about something before we start. And it's about the Darlington Memorial Hospital and their court case that went through employment tribunals today. 8 nurses sued the hospital on the grounds that a trans woman, i.e. a man in a dress, was getting changed in the female changing rooms. Now, the BBC, ITV, Sky, all of the media have said Rose Henderson was not accused of any wrongdoing. That is simply factually inaccurate. Here is what Rose Henderson was accused of. First of all, this person has had no gender reassignment surgery whatsoever. Therefore, he, she, whatever you want to call it, used to walk around in his boxer shorts with a lump in his pants, obviously. Not excitable, but nonetheless still obviously biologically male. These nurses have to get changed completely in the changing rooms. I didn't know that they changed their underwear before their shifts. I don't know why they do that, but it must be some form of hygiene thing. So they're getting naked in front of Rose Henderson. Rose Henderson, just to be clear, has a girlfriend. Right? So it is somebody who describes themselves as somebody who used to be a man, but is a trans female lesbian. And they also accused, although the court, to be fair, did not find that this was the case, that that he, she, whatever, was standing there ogling at them.
When he's attracted to women and then in a room with nurses in a state of undress. So... That's not really, I just think, a straight male.
I think it's grossly unfair. You know, ultimately, if you put... I mean, I'm not taking...
You could just go in and say I'm a lesbian.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Basically, it is the equivalent of me in my boxer shorts throwing a dress over the top and saying, I am a transsexual female lesbian, put me into the women's changing rooms.
I believe you.
It's really unfair.
Yeah. No,
I mean, actually, there are people out there who are going to find this quite comical, and I think it is comical.
Well, not to the nurses.
Until it's your sister or your wife or your daughter.
Your child.
Or it's you in that position.
Yeah, cool.
I think it's really shameful. I think it's really shameful. The next thing, and I'm going to bring Ben Habib in and talk about this because I think it is an important point. Let's just be clear, and me and Ash have made this point on multiple occasions. The Supreme Court did not ban men going into women's changing rooms. The law has always said that is not legal. Yeah. The Supreme Court merely pointed out that that was the law. We are still awaiting the Equalities and Human Rights Commission to publish their guidance on this. We are awaiting the government to publish their guidance, both of whom today have said that they have still not decided what to say.
But the guidance doesn't actually... The law is in place.
Exactly.
We know what the law is.
So what is happening is the government, the Darlington Memorial Hospital and the Equality and Human Rights Commission in the UK all know that the law says that men can't go in women's changing rooms, and they're all willfully ignoring the law. That's what the case was about today. And I have to say to you, if it was your 18-year-old daughter as a student nurse and me and Asher and Ben Habib were in the female changing rooms wandering around in our boxer shorts, I think you would be pretty unimpressed. Yeah. Pretty unimpressed.
We promise never to do that again, by the way.
I mean, fairly obviously it's not something we would ever seek to do. Yeah. But that is what it is. It's a 40-something bloke wandering round. And look, ultimately, I'm afraid to say, if you've got no form of corrective surgery, if you're dating a woman, then as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sorry if people get offended by this, you have a fetish of wearing women's clothes. Nothing wrong with that. But it is not appropriate for that to be part of the hospital routine, particularly when it comes to changing rooms. Now, look, of course, Ben Habib from Advance UK is a good friend of this show and a good friend of mine, and he has come on to talk fundamentally about what's happened with Robert Jenrick. But I do want you to respond to that story, Ben, because it is a depressing situation, not just... Because ultimately, if Advance UK win the election, you will be the British Prime Minister. And the idea that the law passed by Parliament is being willfully ignored by quangos in this way is just shameful, isn't it?
There are a couple of things you said which I think were absolutely spot on, if I may say so, Andre. The first is that when we hear this story, our first inclination is to laugh. And the inclination to laugh comes from the fact that it is absolutely bloomin' absurd, isn't it?
Yes.
That a 40-year-old heterosexual man, effectively, because he talks a load of nonsense, claims to be a woman, can walk into a woman's changing room, a nurse's changing room in this case, have a look at their naked bodies, get whatever pleasure that any normal heterosexual male would get,
yes,
and be somehow excused of that behavior. And we laugh because it's absurd. But you went on to correct that.
You did that. He was being too jovial. Yeah, very serious.
But it is very serious, because if it is your daughter, your mother, or your sister in that changing room, and this guy's ogling them and, getting some kind of peculiar pleasure from it.
It's not actually peculiar. That is, if it's a heterosexual man, it would be a normal thing. That's why it's a ridiculous thing, isn't it?
I don't want to be gratuitous with anybody, but I've seen videos, and this is not Rose Henderson, by the way, but I've seen videos of men in dresses in women's changing rooms, and because of the cut of a dress, it's very clear if a man is excited, and you can see that this person has gone into, and I've seen loads of videos of men who've gone into female changing rooms or indeed toilets out of a sexual fetish, out of and they get deriving pleasure from it. And I have to say to you, you've done a 12-hour shift running around the hospital. Half the patients have died because it's A&E, right? You've seen a 10-year-old kid who's been in a car accident, and at the end of your shift, when all you want is a shower and get into your normal clothes, there's some hairy-ass bloke sat there watching you getting changed. It's disgusting.
You're really effectively being assaulted.
Yes.
In your workplace. And,
well, it's voyeurism, isn't it? I mean, it is illegal.
It is. It's awful. But the other point that you really, if I may say so again, hit the nail on the head with is the Equalities and Human Rights Commission. This quango is effectively standing in the way of a Supreme Court ruling,
yes,
which in itself was, in my mind, absolutely unnecessary to remind us that men are men and women are women. Yeah. But anyway, this quango, like so many other quangos, so many of these sort of bureaucratic bodies, unaccountable individuals who hold authority, stands in the way of what is the law of this land. We don't need these unelected officials.
But what would happen? But Ben, what will happen if you become Prime Minister? I believe is that you will sit down in Downing Street. Now, look, this isn't your first rodeo, so you'll be pretty robust. But you will sit down in Downing Street. You will go, right, here is my legislative programme, and they will say you can't do that, and you will say I want to do whatever, and they'll say you can't do that. I mean, with James Cleverly, and I know you think James Cleverly is as weak as my urine, but at the same time, when he was Home Secretary, he went in. He said, turn the boats round in the Channel, and the Home Office official said, I'm afraid you can't tell us to do that. It's not legal. So we are in a situation where quango after quango, government department after government department would say to Prime Minister Ben Habib, no, you can't do what you want. You can't do what the public have voted for. And that is a scandal.
Yeah, you pull the levers and nothing happens. That's what's been said. How are you going to reattach those levers?
The levers will be reattached before we enter government. And this is my message to any political party that genuinely wants to change the way this country is governed. What you've got to do is now go beyond a manifesto which is full of platitudes to a manifesto which actually has draft legislation attached to it. And so when you go into Parliament, you can invoke the Salisbury Convention and say this is a manifesto pledge. The Lords can't stand in its way. The civil service can't stand in its way. And the manifesto pledge is just not an airy-fairy promise. As I say, it would be draft legislation, and you force it through without
This is the Donald Trump theory. Donald Trump too, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, if you lie to Parliament, you have to resign. If you lie in your manifesto, that's no problem at all. But you're right; it should be. Sorry. It should be forced into a general election.
Sorry, Ash, I'm going to have to tell you off there. No. If you lie to Parliament, you are supposed to resign unless you are the racist police chief of West Midlands, in which case you're perfectly allowed to lie, and then you can retire on 2/3 of your final salary. But anyway, Ben, let me tell you this, and you and I have argued about this plenty of times. I left the Conservative Party when Robert Jenrick failed to become the leader because I believed there were an insufficient number of Conservatives within the Conservative Party. I was on my YouTube channel yesterday saying that the next thing that has to happen now is there has to be a deal in some way between you, Nigel Farage, and, between Nigel Farage and Ben Habib. I know that you and Farage hate each other, but why am I wrong to say that I like Jenrick, I like Farage, and I like you, and I want the three of you to work together?
Can I just say, I do not hate Nigel Farage. I simply do not hate him. What I feel deeply depressing about Nigel Farage is that he paints himself in this persona of a patriot, pro the United Kingdom, small state, low taxes, deregulation, borders and everything else. But actually, that's all chat. The walk that he is doing is not the opposite, but it certainly isn't consistent with that. So, for example, he stands as the anti-establishment candidate, but he's off to the World Economic Forum. I mean, that's just, for me, it's like, what are you doing, Farage?
Well, what do you think of this, of the Jenrick move? Is it because you just thought, well, Kemi's not going to go, it's a dead party, this is finished?
So I'm disappointed in Jenrick. I had come to the conclusion that, notwithstanding the fact that he voted Remain, that he was a Cameroonian, that he was quite wet, I thought his conversion to being a so-called right-wing politician was a genuine one.
I believe it as well, actually.
Yeah, and him joining Reform was effectively him putting himself above and to the detriment of the interests of the country. And he knows that. If he was genuine, he would have gone independent for a period. He would have sat as an independent MP, considered his options, and not gone for saving his skin, but then fought the arguments, the kind of arguments that Rupert Lowe is fighting as an independent. And then, having looked at the landscape, determined where he should go. But he went for safe harbour. And that's not a good
hang
look.
on a second. But my problem is, and I'll repeat the comment again, I genuinely like you all. So let's just be clear. Nigel Farage is simply a showman and somebody who's got bravado and bluster and whatever. You bring more of an intellectual basis than Nigel Farage does, which I think is a good thing. Then you have Robert Jenrick with ministerial experience. Rupert Lowe, look, bit of a loony, but frankly brilliant on policy. Well, he is brilliant on policy. I thought his 10-minute rule bill about quantitative easing was absolutely sensational. But I just feel like, and I watch all of these leaders, and I even include some of the more fringe people like Tommy Robinson or whatever. I look at some of the comments that these people make, and I think I agree with a lot of it. But the feeling is, by the way, I even think Kemi Badenoch's not doing too badly. But I just feel that now we're all so fractured, there is a risk that, because there's 5 different options now, we're going to end up just with another Labour government by default.
Can I just say what's going on? What's going on at the moment? Forget about the division for a moment.
Yes.
What's going on is a massive debate, and this is the right thing to be taking place, a massive debate on the so-called right-hand side of politics.
Yes.
Where for the first time, actually, in 30 years, you've got lots of different politicians, apparently of the same hue, fighting it out intellectually to determine what is the settlement that this country needs to be saved.
So you think everyone will come together in the next couple of years before the general election?
I absolutely,
on the
Ash. I absolutely. No, they may not come together, but something is going to emerge as the settled, correct way to run this country with the support of the people. The next government, mark my words, bookmark this comment. The next government of the United Kingdom is going to be a pro-British government.
Well, I've got to be honest with you, Ben. There is a reason why I think you're right, and I'll tell you why. Because when I studied politics at university, and no doubt when all of us were at university, when you talked about tactical voting, it was quite hard to do. You had to know the polling in your own constituency. You had to be able to get... And then you needed 5,000 of your friends to agree with it. Actually, in an age of communication, I think it's going to be quite easy for people to tactically vote. And what I think may happen at the next election, as an example, let's give an example of the 2 constituencies that I'm from. Lee in Greater Manchester, I think Reform will win by a mile. And I think Windsor in Berkshire, Conservatives will win by a mile. And I think that will be people coming together. I would imagine, and I don't know for sure, I would imagine that very few Conservatives or Reformers will vote for anyone other than you wherever you stand. So I do think that whilst there's no official deal between people, I think the mainstream media are obsessed with this. Are you going to do a deal with this person, deal with that person? I actually think that tactical voting will do the deal for us, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, that could certainly be the case. But what's happening now, I think, is more fundamental than that, if I may say so. There's a debate going on. We're all arguing with each other to determine what it is that actually troubles this country. What are the root causes of those issues, and what are the solutions?
And has there been? Is it so? Look, a lot of my ideas are stolen from David Starkey. I'll just freely admit that, and he's always said
that. The man, he's brilliant.
As he said, as an academic, it's my job to inspire people to steal my ideas. So I have stolen them. He has persuaded me that actually the number one thing that anyone needs to do, whether it be Prime Minister Habib, whether it be Prime Minister Farage, whether it be Prime Minister Badenoch, any of them, the number one thing they have to do day one is to say, we are repealing all of the constitutional vandalism. And at least we are all agreed, because I have to say to you, I don't care whether you would be a good or bad Prime Minister. I know that sounds stupid, because you would restore democracy in the country day one, and therefore, even if you were crap for another 4 years, it wouldn't matter, because we'd have our country back.
Yeah, but on that point, do you think he'll cancel the general election? And what do you think about all these ridiculous... I mean, it's a coup, isn't it? But what do you think about these elections that he's cancelled?
It's absolutely hopeless what's going on at a local council level. But there's no way he's going to cancel the general election. The people will be out on the streets. There will be direct action.
But shouldn't they be out on the streets with these cancelling of elections?
Well, I mean, council elections, you get a 30% turnout, 35% turnout.
I'll tell you what I will do, Ben, and certainly I imagine that between all of us, the viewers and listeners and whatever, you know what I would do if there's a cancellation of the general election? I will stick a ballot box in the vestibule of the block of flats that I live in, and hold a frigging election myself, and say, right, I'll tell you what we'll do. 650 patriots around the country will install ballot boxes, and then we'll get the electoral register that you can get from your local council, and come along and vote.
Like the Peace-a-Loo massacre at Andre's flats.
But the reality is we would elect well, it's exactly what the Irish Republic did right before they even existed. They just went, right, we're just going to have a parliament of our own. But I do think, Ben, and this is I guess my final question before we let you go. Here is my concern. The number one political issue in this country, it seems to me, is how do we hunker down to protect ourselves from a patriotic pro-British government? Every quango, every judicial body, all of these organisations are all sat there saying, what can we do to ensure that Prime Minister Ben Habib will be effective?
We can't get into government and then think, what are we going to do? All this thinking has to be done beforehand. We have to have the draft legislation. We need to know which bastards in the civil service need to be sacked, which judges have invoked Article 3 and Article 8 of the ECHR, and make sure they go. And then you go in with a sledgehammer, with a shock and awe approach at day one.
You'd have to bring in emergency powers, wouldn't you, in order to...
You have the ability to invoke emergency powers, and that will be something. There is
one final thing. And I know I'm broadsiding you with this, but I think it's going to become a big issue next week. It's this Hillsborough law. Now, look, I'm no expert, but Toby Young, Lord Young, head of the Free Speech Union, has said that the tagging on... So, first of all, the Hillsborough law is a great idea. It means that public servants have to be honest and give a fulsome evidential account of whatever they've done when there's an inquiry. I think there's no point in asking you about that, Ben, because nobody's going to disagree with that, apart from perhaps this security services exemption. Right. What has also been tagged on is that all public servants now will have to act in the public interest, otherwise it'll be a crime, and they have to act within the law. Lord Young is concerned that members of the House of Lords will dump the Salisbury Convention, which is to allow through all legislation that was in the manifesto, on the grounds that we can be prosecuted because we're not acting in the public interest. David Starkey says there's a possibility the Supreme Court might strike down the abolition of the Supreme Court on the grounds it feels that it's in contravention of international law. What's your thoughts on literally a piece of legislation which is empowering people to ignore democracy?
there will be a constitutional crisis, and it's addressable again in the manifesto. You declare in your manifesto that if the Lord abuses the Salisbury Convention, you will sack every single Lord that votes in favour of setting aside the Salisbury Convention. And if they won't allow themselves to be sacked, you have the Commons versus the Lords, and we're back in the 17th century.
Absolutely right.
But it's not going to get there, because they will buckle under the pressure of democracy. They will buckle. We don't need to fret about it. These are hypothetical issues.
Amen to that. I think Asher's got one final question, but before I hand you over to Asher, who'll give you a question and then finish the segment, I do want to say I watched an awful lot of your conference in Manchester. I want to congratulate you on that, because I haven't seen you since then.
Right,
Thank you, Andre.
Rupert Lowe's announced that he's intending to launch a rival party to Reform UK. Are you going to join up with him? Would you join up with him?
I haven't. I've literally, he's just announced this now, has he?
Yeah, but come on, we need your answer. Come on.
My answer is I need to see what his party is. The key for me is making sure the country is safe. I don't care whether it's Advance, Reform, Conservatives, or Rupert's new party, whatever it is he's launched. I'm going to look at what he's launched, and if it is the right answer, then he will have my total support.
So you're considering it there? We can
I will
announce
consider anything. Listen, I was deputy leader of Reform. I don't want to be leader of Advance. Advance shouldn't exist. Reform should have done the right thing. What I care about is the country. That's the only thing I care about, making sure we get the solutions that restores this country to what it once was.
Well, you better phone Rupert now and find out what
I'll phone him this afternoon.
Right, yeah.
No, I'll phone him this afternoon. I'll phone him this afternoon.
Thanks for that. Anyway, Ben, great to... it's been a while, but it's great to speak to you, and we'll speak to you again very soon. That's Ben Abid. Cheers, man. Leader of Advance UK. 03444991000. It's me and Andre. He's still there.
Beautiful.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. I just want to draw attention to a couple of things on my YouTube channel, which you can find at youtube.com, and then you just search Andre Walker. First of all, I did a poll yesterday, and there's still a couple more hours to vote, and it's, are you happy or sad about Robert Jenrick joining Reform? 50% said they were happy. 16% said they were sad, and 33% said they were unsure. 8,500 of you voted.
They didn't know if they were happy or sad, 33%.
Okay. The other thing that I made a video about today, which I think is just a remarkable thought, Ed Miliband has returned Britain economically to the Stone Age. Now, you know how people often say that, and it's not true. Actually, it is completely true in this case. The UK has produced iron locally ever since the end of the Stone Age and the beginning of the, guess what, Iron Age. And yet, because of Ed Miliband's green policies, we are about to end our time. So we cease to be, if you like, in the Iron Age.
Should we go back into the Bronze Age?
Well, of course, the next thing is that our salt production in the UK is about to cease. I think there's only 2 salt factories now. Obviously, there's a lot of chemicals a lot of chemical processes that require salt. We have been producing salt in Britain since the Stone Age, and we are soon going to cease to do that. I have to say to you, Asher and I have begged people to listen to this comment. You know, simply domiciling all of your heavy industry to China and claiming that that is making the environment better is horrendous. Asher and I are in a comparatively privileged position having jobs like this.
Tons of salt. I've got big boxes of it.
But across the country, people are losing their jobs in proper industry and manufacturing, and I think it is a great, great shame.
Do you know also we got the weakest military since 1500?
Well, can I tell you something? You were saying that you'd been presenting here for 30 years. I bet you 30 years ago, every single item of studio equipment would have been manufactured in the UK, and now none of it is.
Yeah, the desks were certainly the desks. The main part of it, Clyde Electronics and Alice.
Well, the bulbs all a bit.
Great
the bulbs,
Scotch mixing desks.
The light bulbs, the paint.
The light bulbs. The paint was British, good British solid paint. So we had some German. We had Sonifex disc carts. I'd have to look into what make they are.
But actually, the point is now none of this that we look. And I'm not being critical of. By the way, just to be clear, I'm not being critical of Talk. It's the same for everybody. But all the equipment we look at now is manufactured
foreign, isn't it?
abroad.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to say to you, I've seen. I saw on Twitter the other day something that really, really genuinely upset me. And it was posted by Lois McClatchy-Miller, who is a political campaigner and somebody who was arrested in Brussels for standing up for the rights of the unborn child. Now, you know, some of you are in favour of, quote-unquote, the right to choose. Me and Asher have always unashamedly said that we don't want to have a go at women. We understand that there are issues of poverty. We understand there are issues of family breakdown. However, we are against abortion and would seek to discourage it. But I don't think anybody will be pleased to hear what Lois has uncovered, that 1 in 3 British women will have an abortion in their lifetime. Now, I've met women who've had abortions, and maybe some of them are blasé about it, but the women I've met have suffered really long-term psychological damage, and that is ignoring the rights of the unborn
and
child.
Physical damage they can have.
Yeah. Lois, I think it's well, first of all, Lois, thank you for coming on, and thank you for bringing this to our attention, but I'm pretty depressed by the whole thing.
I know. Well, this was reports out yesterday from the British government showed that the UK abortion rate has now reached 300,000 abortions per year. That's an immense amount of children that we are losing every year. 1 in 3 women, if you think of all the women that you know, all the women that I know, 1 in 3 are having an abortion. If that is not the sign of broken Britain, I don't know what is.
So let me ask you this question, because honestly, Asher and I think sometimes are in a bit of an ivory tower, and I'll tell you why. Because we were incredibly lucky to grow up with 2 parents, to grow up with, in Asher's case, 1 sibling, in my case, 2 siblings, but to grow up in, you know, a comparatively nice middle class. I mean, I'm not saying you know, billionaires or whatever, but quite nice environment where, you know, there was no divorce, there was no family breakdown, there was none of whatever. What is it that's driving all this abortion? And why is
I've heard it's economic. I was reading the paper. It's a lot of it is to do with economic reasons. A lot of people are who are having kids are only having 1 or 2 due to economic reasons.
Well, we know that there's also a high proportion of women who reportedly say that they feel pressured into abortion. Now, whether that's pressure from a partner who doesn't want to be a father, pressure from parents or family who don't think they can do it, or economic pressure, social pressure. You know, there's a lot of headlines, a lot of cultural promotion of the idea that women don't really want children. Women want to have a career, and to have a career means that they must eschew being a mother. I think that's a pretty raw deal for a woman. I think we should be working towards a society that allows and empowers women to become mothers.
I don't understand the basics of this. And once again, I admit that we're in an ivory tower. I freely admit that, and I don't want to talk down to anybody else and anybody else's life. But, you know, my parents till death do us part is precisely what happened. My dad was holding my mother's hand when she died. He'll be watching this probably tomorrow. But you know, they had a much happier life because they went along with not their Christian values, but what I would say the natural state of humanity is, which is for a man and a woman to get married and to have kids and to stay together for life. And that made them incredibly happy. And I don't understand why we are force-feeding children in school the view that is not a great thing. Now, obviously, look,
they want the double bubble on the tax, don't they? I mean, you see women now, because they've been through the whole feminist mill, and they're 60 now, and I saw this woman written an article, and she said that we were all conned this feminism. I wanted a career, and now I'm not married, I've got no children, and I regret totally being conned, into this feminist stuff that has ruined her life.
Yeah, I think more and more millennials, as they hit their 40s, are realizing that this promise that a job would serve you as well as a husband and kids can is a pretty empty promise. You know, your desk job doesn't love you back is the reality at the end of the day. And I think this rhetoric of my body, my choice, it came in with abortion in the 60s and 70s. It sounded really empowering, but actually, you're right, Andre. What it used to be was if a guy got a girl pregnant, generally, there was a kind of rule that they would probably get married, he would step up to being a father, and they would tackle this problem together. Not this problem, they would tackle this new challenge and opportunity together to be parents. But with my body, my choice, it kind of left the burden on the woman saying, your body,
but
your
my
choice,
nieces,
your issue.
My nieces have never walked up to me, and forgive me if once again they're in an ivory tower, they've never walked up to me and when I say, what do you want to be when you grow up, they go, I'd really like to be a career woman and have 5 abortions. I mean, nobody says that.
Yeah, but also in the old days, Lois, I mean, a man who was a bus driver in London could easily afford to pay for a house, and the woman wouldn't have to work. We've lost that totally because of this whole con thing. They've been able to bring wages down. House prices have gone up, all because of this basic economic con that we've lived in for the last 4 or 5 decades.
I think that's true, but I think there's also a sense that we feel like we can't afford to have children when we probably can't. There was an article in the Telegraph just this week, actually, that was a couple saying we're on 100k salaries and we feel too poor to have kids.
Yeah, you need to be on the dole to afford kids. You need to not have a job, and then you get everything. You can be on £100,000.
But actually, I look, I was very influenced by a chap called Philip Ullman, who used to come on the show regularly. He doesn't now because he doesn't like the late nights. But to be fair, he made the point, and I think he was right. He said, we've exchanged true happiness for pretending to be happy on Instagram, right? I've always said about a Lamborghini, if you like driving fast round a track, buy a Lamborghini. Nothing wrong with having a Lamborghini. But if you believe that a Lamborghini will make you a better person, it will not. What will make you a better person is having a good family, coming from a good community, supporting your God or whatever it is. Those will make... Now, if you want a fast car in addition because you like driving fast, do buy a Lamborghini and that's fine. And I just worry that we have told children and young people that what is important is being able to pay your way onto a first-class flight to Dubai, and what is not important is coming from a loving family. And that's why somebody on 200 grand a year is going to say, I'm not rich enough to have children, because they don't value the richness of love.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's beautiful,
we live in a very materialist
it's beautiful
culture, but you're absolutely right, Andre. I mean, we have a higher expectation. It's true that we have, higher economic problems than perhaps our grandparents' generation, but we also have a higher expectation of the standard of life, and we have a higher expectation of the things that we should be able to spend our money on, flights, fast cars, all of these things. And at the same time, we've completely devalued the idea that investing in children, investing in the next generation can be a really valuable asset. When people get to the end of their lives and they're sitting on their deathbeds, very few say, oh, I'm so glad that I bought that 16th car.
Yeah, exactly right.
Do you also think people are worried about the future of this country, thinking, I don't want to bring kids into this. What's going to happen in 20, 30 years to our daughters and sons?
Well, I think it would be much worse if we failed to bring children into the country. There's going to be, 2026 is a turning point. There's going to be more deaths than births in Britain this year. We are a dying nation. And if we do not do something to sort out our fertility rate, which also links heavily to the fact that we are aborting so many of the children that we conceive, we are going to have
I can't believe, Lois.
Well, we've got robots coming out.
We're sat there saying we've got a falling population and we're bringing migrants into the country. Now, we can debate whether migrants are good for the economy or bad for the economy, but we're literally bringing in the number of migrants that were having abortions every year. And so it's just crazy. So what we're doing, in my view, and people might disagree, you are killing UK babies and then replacing them with Afghans. Nobody can think that's sensible.
Right, of course. I mean, it's kind of the elephant in the womb, if you like, of the fertility conversation is that we are aborting so many babies. And this study that was published in the Telegraph this week as well, it does show that if we weren't importing migrants, we would soon run out of the
Well, no,
age
because
of
we'll
workers
bring
that
Teslas
we're
in. We
looking
don't
for.
need children. Have you seen these robots? They're already amazing. Imagine what they're going to be like in 10 years. They'll be able to do everything better than your children can.
Lois,
Well, I mean, if you're happy to be cared for by a ChatGPT robot when you're in your 80s in a nursing home, maybe that's all right.
oh,
But I think most of the
I tell you
time-
what, he's
love
not
it, yeah.
he's not going to be supported by Microsoft Copilot.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the top quality one.
Microsoft Copilot thinks that he beat up some West Ham supporters when he didn't. But anyway, Lois,
Yeah, that's true.
here's my final question to you, and I just think it's a really important thing. I worry sometimes that the three of us are just angry, or sorry, not angry, we're just upset for a living. I just wonder. What we need is fundamentally for society to reset. A lot of this footling round the edges doesn't make that much of a difference. I mean, as an example, I would like us to enforce the law on abortion. I would like us to discourage abortion and whatever. I don't want to make it illegal yet because I don't think we're there yet. But fundamentally, the societal change needs to be valuing having a good family and a good community over what photos you can take on Instagram. And we are a long way from that, aren't we?
Absolutely, and so the answer has to be great family policy. I mean, the family has been neglected by politicians for generations. You know, why are women, when they do finally give birth, pushed so quickly back into the office after? You know, our maternity policy.
Yeah,
or
you see women
child
like
welfare
that
policy is
still at the
all geared at
workplace.
work. It's not geared at family.
I mean, I've seen people, not so much now, but it used to be like their waters were breaking at the desk. You know what I mean? They were working right up until the end.
And who can forget Rocky Balboa's wife in Rocky 2,
Adrian,
who fell ill in the pet shop.
And her name was Adrian, which is a bit weird, isn't it?
I did it.
It's a man's name.
So look. So okay, somebody by the way asked how many children you've had. Just to confirm,
That's very rude.
You're fairly recently married, Lois, aren't you?
Very
But
rude.
you are somebody who's campaigned for the family. What do you think are the practical steps that we can? I'm not asking that question. I mean, that is very rude.
Yeah,
I'm not
you
asking.
can't ask
Sorry,
that.
in my ear, I'm not asking that question. Okay, you can guess what the question was. Okay, but
He asked, "Are you trying?"
no,
it's
stop.
none of your
stop,
business.
Stop.
None of your business.
Stop. Okay.
Yeah.
But I just want to ask you this.
Stop it.
In terms, so forget your situation. How are we going to encourage? How are we going to be more family friendly as a country? What are the practical things we can do next, Lois?
Well, there's so many things. I mean, politically, economically, there can be way more support. I mean, people are actually punished in the tax system for being married and raising children. We can be reconfiguring our tax, reconfiguring our entire structures of how people earn so that we can support, if they want to, mothers to be able to stay in the home and concentrate on raising their children, especially in the younger years. But I think a lot of
when
it
it's
is also
60 quid a day for each child, isn't it? I mean, ridiculous. It's cheaper for the woman to work at home.
Right.
Live
Well,
at
I
home.
think let's embrace that. I mean, why is the government always pushing childcare, cheaper childcare, as the greatest feminist policy on earth that actually a lot of women would prefer?
Oh, I think feminist policies are really pretty disgraceful to women, forcing women out of having the choice of whether to work or be a mom, forcing women, men in women's changing rooms, abortion on demand. I think none of these things my niece says to me as things she aspires to. Of course,
Right.
I will say, I'll leave you with this. When my niece was 4, my mum said to her, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And she looked at my mum as if my mum had landed from the planet Zog and went, "Obviously, a princess." Of course she did. There you go.
Anyway, thank you, Lois. Yeah, we've got to go a
Thank
little bit.
you.
It's lovely to see you. You have to come in when you're in town one night. That's Lois McClatchy Miller, political commentator. Anyway, look, we got a text here. He says, "Hi, Ash, don't forget Canford Electronics, major manufacturers and suppliers of broadcast equipment who are based in the North East." I mean, we do make the best high-end audio. We still actually do. The people who are into their hi-fi and audio. And we also make the best, engine parts. I mean, Ferrari, they get a lot of their parts still made in this country. The best automotive, real
Do you know what also is the best? Also is the best.
What's that?
Paul Andrew, the rat catcher of Windsor, is without question the best pest controller.
Is he the one with the little dog?
No, he's not got a little dog.
I like that dog that goes
He can get rid of any pest. Apparently, he is watching or listening. So great to see you, brother. I have to say, the only problem is, every time you talk to him and he tells you what he's been up to all day, you end up scratching yourself, sort of getting...
Yeah, the rat's running away from his smell,
it's not that. It's when he starts talking about bed bugs.
Anyway, 0344 499 1000. Give us a ring. We got Cindy, Caroline, Robert, and you as well. You can leave us also a WhatsApp message if you're scared to come on. It's Talk with Andre and Ash. Back in a sec.
He doesn't even know his name.
No.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is the Late Show with Andre Walker and Ashley Gould. And by the way, in the break, you will have heard about this amazing competition that talkTV are running. It's talk.tv/win. Now, listen, we're not forced to talk about this, but I will say I would love to go to the Super Bowl. And if you enter the competition, then you not only get to go to the Super Bowl, you get to visit San Francisco. You get $2.5 grand in spending money. God knows what the tickets to Super Bowl cost. Obviously, Ash and I can't enter because we work for the company, but it is worth a look. Talk.tv/win. Obviously, because I'm just talking off the top of my head, all the terms and conditions are on the website, so please do check them out. But what a brilliant prize.
Were you one of those big American football fans in the 80s and that? Remember Channel 4, they put it on, it got quite big, and they had the London Monarchs and all, you know. So
I'll tell you why I quite like the Super Bowl. So first of all, I'd like to go just to suck up the atmosphere of it.
It's about 8 hours, isn't it? The match, they stop and start.
Yeah, absolutely. But then the other thing is, it's that halftime show. Do you know they don't get paid for the halftime show?
All right, it's like here then.
So what you do is you end up going. So it's like they'll get Madonna or somebody like that, but because there's a billion viewers.
The war.
Do you remember when Madonna got yanked off stage, yanked backwards? That was awful.
I enjoyed that. I like that. I like things like that, accidents on stage. I don't know, it must be my sickness. Anyway, let's speak to Hertfordshire Bob. And the advert, of course, it costs £1 billion to have an advert on.
Crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
Yeah. Bob.
Oh, guys.
All right, man.
I've got two things to bring to your attention. In our house at the moment, we're great traitor fans, okay? But how about this? How about having traitors and all the contestants are MPs? That would be brilliant.
Well, they already are traitors, aren't they, all the MPs?
Well, yeah, but so they'd be really good at it. The other thing I'd like to say... Go on.
What? I didn't say anything.
All right. The other.
Do you hallucinate? Are you hallucinating, Rob?
Well, he's like Microsoft Copilot at the West Midlands Police.
There's a lot of poltergeist activity in Hertfordshire, would you?
I come from Clerkenwell, but...
well, that's full of ghosts around there.
Yeah, our house was haunted. We had a grade 2 listed. Anyway, going on.
Really? So now tell us about this Clerkenwell. You used to have a grade 2 listed house in Clerkenwell. Because I had friends like that. They said they lived in Islington in the 70s and they said, move to Enfield. That's the up and coming. And they sold their house for nothing in Islington. Now it's worth millions of pounds. Is that where you lived, like a house would be worth now millions in Clerkenwell?
Yeah, what happened was we got it off the council and thanks to, because nobody wanted those Georgian houses in the days.
Amazing.
You know, they all wanted the new build.
Yeah.
So thanks to good old Maggie, we paid our £20 and we claimed our right to buy it.
20 quid for a Georgian house in Clerkenwell.
Well, no, it wasn't.
No.
That was the certificate.
Well, how much was it? I bet it was like 100 grand or not even that.
No, it was 60 grand.
And that'll be worth what? 2 million, 3 million now?
Well, we sold it.
I had a friend who got rid of a 3-bedroom flat in Notting Hill and moved to Romsey on the south coast.
Well, do you remember...
Which sounded like a good idea in the 80s.
Do you remember, what's his name, off Crime Watch, Nick Ross? Was it Nick
Oh, Nick
Ross?
Ross, yeah.
Now, he bought a house in Notting Hill for about, 800,000 in 1986. He did some extension, sold it for 35 million.
Yeah, I'd heard that.
20 years later. Sorry to depress you, Bob.
Maggie,
Yeah.
People like us stepped onto the ladder. You know,
Exactly.
I wasn't really Tory, but...
She did a lot for the working class. They just should have, with the money, built other houses so it continued. You know what I mean? That's where they went wrong.
Well, no, I think the that's killed her.
Anyway, look, Robert, we got to take. Can we keep you on because we've got to take a little break at this?
No, we can't do that because we've got a special guest on who was at the Robert Jenrick
Well,
thing.
quickly have a chat for a minute, and we'll get you back later if you can't get it all out.
All right then. Just one thing: if we was treating Reform as a football team, who would your next free signings be?
Peter Shilton.
No, come on. I mean,
Gaza.
Who would be my 3 signings? So first of all, I will tell you that I've spoken to Reform today, and they've said that the only 2 Conservative MPs they'd accept now are Katie Lamb and Jack Rankin. Those are the only 2.
Rice Mogg.
They don't want anyone else. Well, Rees Mogg's a no-go because he's so ingrained in being a Tory. He would never. I'll tell you who I would sign. If I was Nigel Farage, I would sign Ben Habib. And the reality is, you've got to get Ben Habib back into the tent. I know, and when he says he doesn't hate Farage, they've all fallen out. But government is bigger than that. So I would say, if it were me, I would prioritise Ben Habib, and then I wouldn't worry about the rest. And can I make another point? Because it's important.
Well, let me just say, would you rather have Ben Habib urinating out the tent or Habib urinating into your tent, Nigel? Think about that. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say... The other point that people make is a non-issue. Tommy Robinson is not interested in joining any political party. He's not interested in running for office. He's not interested in being an MP. So just not ignore him, but he's going to do his independent journalism. Just leave him to it. You don't need to worry about Tommy Robinson.
My attack dog will be Dominic Cummings, without a doubt.
Yeah, but the problem is, if you left Dominic Cummings in a room on his own, he'd have an argument with everybody else present.
Anyway, we've got to take a little break here, and we'll be back with Joe, who was at the press conference last night. He's one of our producers yesterday afternoon. He was at the Jenrick press conference, and he's got the extra bits to tell us what really happened. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, yesterday was that major press conference. Was he going to walk out or wasn't he going to walk out about Robert Jenrick? It's really interesting because when I turned on my TV screens, I saw that one of our producers who works here, Joe Stock, was there producing, but has almost kind of become a bit of a political commentator in his own right because we've dragged you on to talk a little bit about it. So look, a little bit about you first. So you're normally just a producer who turns up, sets up cameras and whatever.
Video producer, yeah.
But you were then in the thick of one of the biggest days in Westminster. Tell us what it felt like.
Well, when we arrived, I didn't think anything big was going to happen because I've been to reform events before, and it's normally like grand hotels, things like that.
Yeah.
This was a tiny, baking hot room. I thought I was going to faint. It was extreme heat. And I just said to the guy that I was with, oh, nothing's going to happen. But then, as events unfolded, it became clear, no, something probably will happen because the way Farage was talking. And I realised, oh, yeah, this is really haphazard. This is really just unfolded as we'd seen it on TV.
And just to be clear, so for those who've just been on holiday, obviously there was that. So officially it wasn't supposed to be a press conference about Robert Jenrick. We don't know whether we believe that or not. No. But when Nigel Farage made the statement at 4:30, he said, welcome to the stage, Robert Jenrick. Now look, it was probably only 2 or 3 minutes that Jenrick went missing. That must have felt like about 4 hours.
I think a few arses tightened up there in that time. It did seem weird, and for a second you thought, has Jenrick played some kind of blinder, like something no one was expecting?
It must have flashed across your mind, going, right, what if he's run off? Like, why would he have run off? Yeah. What is he going to appear with?
So what happened to where was he then?
They never gave
an explanation. Being a bit slow.
But everyone was expecting him to come through one corridor, and he ended up coming through the other. So I assume there was a breakdown. Okay.
You're making me sneeze. I'm allergic to Joe.
But I guess there must have been some kind of breakdown in communication.
So it's a really weird situation. So obviously my background, as you know, is working in politics. Yours is working in production. And you end up in jobs like this, just in the thick of something. Because you're a young guy, just come out of university or whatever, just come out of your professional training. And obviously you're an ordinary bloke. What's it feel like to be thrust into because if what Farage and Jenrick think is going to happens, then you were at the seminal moment of the collapse of the Conservative Party. You were at the moment of the bringing together of the right. You were at the moment when really the next government was conceived. And I guess you were just a bloke with a camera who got told by Denny Morris to turn up and film.
Well, yeah, I've been to a lot of events like that over the year.
Yeah,
I'm very grateful.
You always get thrown into those major events.
Quite often at the last minute, but that's the way it goes. So in the moment, I wasn't feeling much. In fact, I was just sort of annoyed about the heat. It was just another thing, and of course, it was announced about a minute before that he had defected. So we knew before he appeared that was what was.
But they
supposed
weren't
to happen.
expecting that, were they? I mean,
up until literally a minute before he walked out.
Did Badenoch force the issue?
I wouldn't.
But look, no. Let me just ask you this question. So, and you've alluded to the answer, but it's really interesting. So, you are in the middle of all this.
Yes.
So, me as a politico, Ash as a professional radio and television presenter, we're sat there going, wow, what was your impression of the Robert Jenrick thing? What was your impression of Farage and all this? And actually, it's really interesting from your point of view. You're worried about the camera batteries. You're worried about the heat in the room. You're worried about whether the microphone's working. And it's just all that heap of practical stuff.
But when I stepped out and, was in the cool again, in Westminster, it suddenly started to sink in. And you thought, well, actually, that was really significant for the future of the parties and the country. I did actually, it doesn't always happen, but that time I did think, well, that was actually really significant.
And did loads of, your relative, you're a young guy. How old are you, by the way?
26.
Yeah, 26. You're a young guy at the start of your career. Did you get lots of people going, oh, I've seen you on the telly?
No, actually, no.
Because I got a photo of you.
Well, yeah, well,
I got a photo of you anyway. No, I'm joking.
What was the action? The inaction between Farage and Jenrick? Did it seem genuine? And
it seemed genuine enough, because it wasn't too lovey-dovey. It was quite, you could feel a bit of tension there, but Yeah, it felt natural. It felt natural.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And what about this thing that a lot of journalists have said? Now, I appreciate that you're looking at cameras and worrying about whatever, but there's a lot of people who said that they felt that, Farage has long been accused of being somebody who's very nervous about rivals, and that as Jenrick was really good, Farage sort of shifted uncomfortably.
Yeah,
is that what
I was watching? So
Farage, did you watch Farage's response?
I did get a bit of that, but I suppose you could read a lot into his mannerisms. I think he felt quite assured with what Robert Jenrick was saying. You know, he was naming names. He came with his.
By the way, was that the best speech of any defector? I mean, I assume it was. Well, I've not seen anything better than that.
In terms of the context,
the ones you've seen.
But I think the effects of that speech were extreme, and he went for the throat with that, naming names. And
so my final question is this: as you know, as I say, I've come into this not from a broadcast background. What's the career trajectory for somebody like you? Where did you start? So what, you left school?
He's
and
finished after yesterday.
How's
history in this business.
How does it work? Are you somebody who's interested in acting, in films, or however?
Well, it's all been luck, really. Basically,
he'll do anything if he gets the right.
Essentially, yeah. No, but I was in the film, wanting to be in film. I did it at university, and a bit of a naff course, but it gave me access to good cameras, and you could build up a show reel, so that was all fine. But I listened to Talk on James Whale's show. I would always tune into that.
Is that actually true?
That is genuinely
we've looked
true.
At the age demographic and 26-year-olds.
That is genuinely true. Even
We've
before
actually
the
brought you
pandemic,
up in your nappies before you could speak.
Yeah,
now, you're doing our show every Friday night, but you're leaving this passage to go and work in an escape pod.
Well, sort of. That's I'm still working on your show.
Yeah, but what's this new job
it's
you got?
like videography, video production, and working in that kind of field. So it's a more advertising.
It's an escape room.
But I'm hoping to be able to balance.
So the long and short of it is that somebody like you, whose expertise is in videography, would have literally gone into one of the big broadcasters in the past. But now there's all sorts of different career routes.
Yeah, I guess so. And
there's actually more money sometimes in the other, what do they call the unauthorised media?
I wouldn't comment on that, but
corporate. Yeah,
I've very much enjoyed my work at Talk, going to events.
A lot of rumours that he's one of Boris Johnson's love children. There's a lot of rumours.
So obviously, if you are going to move slightly away from doing the daytime stuff here and just be in the evenings, what has been the best moment of your sort of videographer going out and about career?
That's a really. I think it was probably filming the interview with James Whale and Nigel Farage. I think that was.
Oh yes.
What about the one after that?
That one as well was very
even
good.
So you've only got about 30 seconds.
Right.
Tell us a bit about the Farage and Whale interview.
I just thought that I know it meant a lot to James, and I think the reaction to it was very positive. And
you literally filmed it.
Yeah, and on a technical level, I think it came out really well. It looked good and up to scratch. And and I thought Farage was very thoughtful.
And did you feel the weight of responsibility because this was his final interview?
Yeah, imagine if you hadn't recorded it.
The dread, the fear was very much there. That would have been horrific, but fortunately it came out well, so that's why it's probably my highlight.
Well, Joe Stock, I want to thank you for everything you've done for the show. Obviously, you are continuing to stay with us.
Absolutely.
I was really impressed when I saw you on the TV. Do you know what? I was thinking, let's just pretend he's a political journalist, but we're not going to do that. You are a videographer who happens to be...
Well, that was journalism, that was hard-hitting journalism. We found out what really went on. Nice one, Joe. Anyway,
I love that. It was the heat of the room. Anyway, Asher, sorry.
0344 499 1000. We're going to go through the papers and taking all your calls on Talk. It's Andre and Ash back in 2 minutes after the new news.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and this is the press preview. Now listen, Stacey in Llanelli, do you like the way I did the bit?
Yeah,
Llanelli. She said that if there is a population shortage in Britain, she's willing to repopulate the UK, doing it with ash. Now, I think you should send a photo in, Stacey, because we want to know. We just want to have a look at you. Am I allowed to use that word? We want to just confirm you're not a beast, right? Okay, we just want to confirm that. No, I'm only joking. Stacey, we want to have a look at you, and also we want to work out whether you want Stacey or Stacey's mom, because Stacey's mom has got it going on.
Would the kid live in Llanelli?
Yeah. Okay. I've upset the producers by using the B word, but let's be clear. There is an element of animal attraction here. We've got to have a look at the picture.
Yeah, but not that much animal attraction.
Okay, Asher, take over before I get taken off the
with tomorrow's papers today. Don't forget, if you're listening in the morning, who's on? It's Mark Dolan, isn't it? Yeah, Mark Dolan. Anyway, Jimmy Mizzen killer duped Rashford, and there's a picture of the killer, Jimmy Mizzen. England footy star Marcus Rashford was duped into posing alongside the masked murder of teenager Jimmy Mizzen. Jake Farry put the picture online to boost his drill raps. He killed Jimmy below in London in 2008. I remember that.
I want to say one thing to Marcus Rashford. I think this is not his fault. This evil man should not be on the streets. And we complained when the BBC played his music. Look, at the end of the day, if this person is on the radio, if this person is on the BBC, if this person is out on the streets, it's not unreasonable for Marcus Rashford to assume he's not a violent killer who has revelled in his murder.
Well, he's even got a balaclava on anyway. You wouldn't recognise him. And also, Kate Garraway writes for The Sun on her fake new lover. What does that mean? What is she's got one of those things they advertise on Instagram. You can have an AI girlfriend. Oh, yeah.
She will do whatever you want. Will she? Or is she literally just a voice talking?
You can get attachments.
No. What?
Yeah, no, they've had that for years. Daily Express, we will fix a broken Britain, but not together. Read what Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick have to say about their political split near Express today. So... there you go. Yeah, well, we all know that's what's happened there. Daily Mail, how to tell if you're a grey area drinker and steps you can take to cut down. A vital book by an alcohol coach.
Probably me.
Yeah. And after female nurses win landmark tribunal over trans colleagues sharing changing room, Labour is told now protect all women.
Yeah, but hang on a second, Asher.
Yeah.
That is the law. The law says...
Obey the law. That's what they're saying. Darlington nurses last night urged ministers to stop dragging their high heels over national guidance on single-sex spaces. In a landmark tribunal decision, a judge ruled NHS bosses had violated the dignity of the 8 female nurses who won their legal challenge against a transgender woman being allowed to use their changing room. It was a man who said he was a lesbian.
He said he was... So
he was attracted to women and liked to hang out in the changing rooms with the naked nurses.
Transsexual female lesbian. They said he used to walk around in his boxers. They felt he was looking at them. Now, I've got to be honest with you, they were probably so self-conscious, whether he's guilty or not guilty, they would have felt that way.
Well, he was attracted to females. So if there's naked nurse females in there, you know.
And also, for reasons that I don't fully understand, nurses apparently at this hospital change their underwear before their shifts. Now, I don't know why that is.
Hygiene.
Obviously, it's got
hygiene.
It's got something to do with. I assume it's got something to do with you have to have a full shower and change your clothes before you go on shift. I assume. But either way, what you were talking about is now he calls himself a transsexual female lesbian. I call him a heterosexual bloke in a skirt. Either way,
with a fetish.
if you are a naked female, you're going to be pretty uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable. You're going to be outraged.
Right, OK, let's go to the Mirror. Farage can't be trusted with Britain, and this is that, it's a buffoon, the Defence Secretary has warned. It comes after Farage said he would not vote for a UK peacekeeping force in Ukraine. John Healey said, I wouldn't trust him with national... Well, he says a lot of crap. But if you're under 65 or 65 and former military, we need you because no one else wants to join.
Well, no, I'll tell you the other thing about this. You know, Steve Bannon was right when he said about our peacekeeping role in Ukraine. You know, you'd need probably about 500,000 soldiers to man that border.
Yeah.
We've got about 15 that we can spur.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be wiped out within a couple of weeks.
It's a delusion.
In the meat grinder.
It's a delusion of grandeur.
It is.
And if we want a military big enough to have a peacekeeping role in Ukraine, then let's build a military big enough. Let's not just pretend.
I don't think we could with the what people wouldn't join now. Why would you want to join this tyrannical government who are the enemy of the people?
I mean, what you would be doing is you would be running into machine gun fire in order...
Or drones, even worse.
Yeah, in order to have your country taken over by people who absolutely hate the country. You know, we're not evacuating Nigerian Christians, but what we are doing is giving racists from Egypt a free pass to come to the country.
And why would we care for other countries' borders when we wouldn't even guard our own border?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if we got the British RNLI on the Ukrainian border, they'd be helping the Russians.
They'd be helping the Russians come in. Yeah, come in.
I mean,
put them in a 4-star hotel.
Yeah, when they say let's defend Britain from the Russians, all the Russians need to do is get some dinghies and sail over from Calais. They'll be sorted. No problem.
The Daily Star. Who are Daily Star? What's their thought for the day? Their thought for the day is Donald Trump. Don't know what that means. And Trump's Ig Nobel Peace Prize. It's not yours, put it down. Donald Trump shows off the Nobel Peace Prize gifted to him by winner Marina Mercado. He thinks it has a ring to it, but just know, well, he has won it. She gave it to him. He should have won it anyway. He did a lot more for peace than Obama did. He just was services to warfare.
What was quite interesting was she told this story, which I can't repeat because I don't remember the full details, about the way that there was an award from an American president that they gave to Venezuela in order to support Venezuelan independence, and apparently she was giving it the other way round. So it was all to do with an exchange of gifts that had previously happened. But her point was that you've got to remember that Stacey's all right, actually. I'm sorry to...
Oh, yeah. It's a yes from me, Stacey. It's a yes.
I'll be honest.
The man from Cloneckley says yes.
I'll tell you what. I offended the producers before by saying the word beast. Beast she most definitely is not. She's fit.
Yeah, she is.
Right. Stacey has got a phone in. OK.
Dark hair. She's got very beautiful eyes, doesn't she? She looks a bit like Bjork. You know Bjork?
She does. I play Dad.
Icelandic. Kelly Brook, young Kelly Brook. Yeah.
So look, I'll be honest with you, Stacey. You are pushing on an open door now. Get her to phone up. Get her to phone up, and we'll speak to her in the next hour. But there's certainly no problem there.
Yeah.
But I do think that what Donald Trump achieved in Venezuela was incredible, and I have to say to you, watching The Rest Is Politics and watching the BBC going, they've taken away the legitimate president of Venezuela. He's not the legitimate president. He rigged the election.
Are they supporting the Iranians putting down the people then and all the executions? As Mateless going, yeah, get those protesters, shoot them, hang them. Is that what they're saying?
At least Emily Mateless has been consistently dreadful. I mean, at least she always gets it wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, let's have a look at the FT weekend. Very complicated and intellectual paper. Right, £5.40 it costs, by the way.
I wouldn't bother.
£5.40.
I wouldn't bother with it, to be honest.
It's very thin. Yeah, it says £5.40 in the UK. In the Republic of Ireland, it's €5.40, so it's a bit less. And it's quite a thin paper. I don't know about the weekend one. Maybe that's... Anyway, EU eyes two-tier accession for Kiev. Key to the potential peace deal. Brussels is drafting proposals to tear up the EU accession system wants to... Anyway, look, the Europeans, it's like us. They've got ideas above their station. They have no power. We have no power. We're useless without the Americans, and that's just the end of it. NHS waiting lists shrink during young doctors' strike as consultants jump in, and how much would that have cost? $3 or $4 grand a shift.
Oh, that's interesting. So when junior doctors went on strike, the service improved. It's like the border agencies.
We've got better quality, isn't it?
Do you remember the border agencies?
They were much better without it. It's like the Belgian government. When they didn't have an actual government, the country ran better than ever. I mean,
Absolutely
that's
right.
what the government is meant to do as little as possible, really. Just run the roads, the police. Strikes by younger doctors in the run-up to Christmas helped forestall a winter crisis in the NHS because senior medics were quicker to discharge patients, according to health leaders. Oh, yeah, get them out. The health service customarily buckles under seasonal pressures, but this winter's performance has been the strongest in several years, providing a rare boost for the Labour government. Yeah, but imagine what they would have cost to employ these people. It's like $3-4 a shift sometimes. Greenland rift, tariffs threat sharpens chill. Denmark's military vessel HMDS Knud Rasmussen patrols off nuke.
By the way, do you know what the best thing was about that moment that just happened? Was looking at Asher Gould's face when he began reading out that thing. I can see it as well, and I knew the name of that boat that he was going to attempt to have to read out the name of.
HMS Knud Rasmussen patrols off nuke in Greenland as Trump warned that he might hit countries with tariffs if they fail to back the US plan to take over the Danish territory. They need to run it. We can't defend it. The ice is melting. The Russians and Chinese will all pile through. You know, Donald needs to be there when the American forces do. It's, you know, we just got to have to accept it, but they just won't. In fact, when they go there, they cry, don't they, all Europeans?
Well, yeah, and I've got to be honest with you, I dislike the way there's been so much dishonesty in parts of the media. The reason why there's a military build-up in Greenland is not because we believe we're going to war with the Americans. That is garbage. Yeah. It's because the NATO want to demonstrate that Trump's central claim that only the Americans can defend Greenland properly is not true. That Europeans and the rest of NATO can step up to the plate. There's going to be a deal done. I've said it lots of times, like Decalia or Aquitaria in Cyprus, those two British sovereign bases. That's what's going to happen. There's no way they're going to make Greenland the 51st state because it's going to add two Democratic senators to the Senate, and that will be a nightmare.
And the BBC and the other ridiculous, useful idiot press just report, well, they're activists, they're not really journalists, report that it's there to defend against
There's
Trump.
not going to be a war with the Americans over Greenland. Can we just be clear about that ludicrous proposition?
And if there was, we'd lose it very quickly.
However, let's just be clear. Part of the problem is, and our friends Canada are partly to blame, with the polar ice cap melting, you can attack the United States of America from the north, and the Canadians refuse to take any action to assist the Americans, which is irritating at best. Asher, I've got to be honest with you, there's not a lot in the papers, so let's go through the I paper and then go to the break, and then I think we should press on with some calls, you know.
OK, well, there's Aung San Suu Kyi now, who spent 20 years buried alive in detention we call Myanmar. I thought she was free, and when she got out, she said that the thing that kept her sane was listening to Dave Lee Travis, the big hairy cornflake.
I have to say to you, Aung San Suu Kyi went to the UN and defended the genocide against the Rohingya Muslims, and I just think, you know, I hate the way all these lefties are sort of so hypocritical. The IDF do the best, the Americans do the best, and whatever. They're furious about what happened in Venezuela with Nicolas Maduro, and by the way, most of the soldiers were incapacitated by probably a microwave or radio or sound wave system, but they're going mad about that. They're not bothered about Aung San Suu Kyi, whose soldiers literally castrated children in parts of Burma. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was interesting, the reports of the invasion in Venezuela, where they used a noise machine to basically make the soldiers sick and bleed from the nose, this sonic weapon. And there is even apparently where they use it in riots as a machine, they call it brown noise, and it's this frequency where if you fire it at a crowd of rioters, they all soil themselves, and then, you know, you have to go home, don't you?
Yeah, it's amazing. So Asher's right, we don't know exactly the system they used, but they believe that they sent sound waves in, which, because it vibrates your brain, actually makes you unable to work out whether you're standing up, sitting down, jumping over.
They were bleeding. And they had it, didn't they, in the Havana syndrome in the Cuban embassy, where people were just feeling sick, they're firing in these beams. Anyway, look, we've got to take a little break. We've nearly gone through all the papers. We've got one more, but we're going to take your calls after that. So 03444991000. We've got Cindy, Caroline, Mark, you two, and WhatsApp messages if you're scared. It's Talk Andre and Ash, and we'll be back after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. Look, we will continue to update you as the newspapers come in for tomorrow. But the reality is, we think that this has been such an important day. We are going to dedicate more time to calls. And so let me just tell you what has happened that has been so significant. And I know that Kevin O'Sullivan was invaded with calls earlier about this and just couldn't get through them, which is why we're dedicating some extra time. Craig Guilford, who was the Chief Constable of the West Midlands, should have been sacked for lying to Parliament. And let me explain what he did and why people are so upset. So, first of all, there was a threat from an Islamist gang that said that if Jewish people came to Villa Park in the Maccabi Tel Aviv versus Aston Villa game, then they would be attacked and they would be murdered. Craig Guilford falsely claimed that the reason that he acquiesced to the suggestion that Jews should not be allowed, the reason that he did that was that, in fact, the Jewish fans themselves were hooligans. He cited, as an example, the way that they had ripped to pieces shops and businesses and offices during the Maccabi Tel Aviv game with West Ham, a game that had simply not taken place. Forget there was no violence there. It had not taken place at all. It hadn't happened. Also, he falsely claimed that police in the Netherlands had warned the British police that Maccabi Tel Aviv fans had attacked local Dutch people. That is not true. Authorities in the Netherlands had said that there had been anti-Semitic attacks when Maccabi Tel Aviv had come, and they were not investigating Maccabi Tel Aviv for any of the offences that he claimed had taken place. He also claimed that there had been proper consultation with the Jewish community. That was once again a lie. Now, I'm going to say something sitting next to somebody you might think might be biased, because he is a Jewish guy and he is a fan of Aston Villa. But let's forget about Aston Villa and let's forget about Jews. The idea that you will be banned from a football stadium on the grounds of your religion in Britain is wholly unacceptable. And there is only one thing worse than being in an Islamist gang that threatens Jewish people. It's being Captain Cowardice, Craig Guilford, who has deliberately lied and victim shamed. This man has retired. He'll be on 100 grand a year pension for life. He should be taken out. He should lose his pension and he should be prosecuted for racism. Can you imagine? This happened? Oh, actually, do you know what? What an idiot I am. I can't imagine this victim shaming. It's exactly what happened when we had a problem with grooming. What we're going to do is arrest the parents and blame the kids. That is because he is an errorist. And remember, I introduced you to this new word yesterday, somebody who's pushing forward the agenda of terrorism because of his own errors of judgment and cowardice. This man should not be receiving your taxpayers' money. By the way, if you are an Aston Villa fan, please call us. If you are somebody who is a taxpayer in the West Midlands, you're going to pay for this man to earn 100 grand a year for life, and he's being pensioned off for being a giant racist.
And not only that, the police commissioner in Birmingham, a Corbynista, you know, he was me. There's a lot of other people involved who need to pay with their jobs, and just on the front page of the Independent, why didn't they fire him? Because he needed only a few more days to get his pension. It's very cynical. It's disgusting what's happened. He'll probably get another job in another force, possibly, or somewhere. Police chief in fan scandal retires, underlined.
Yeah, so what's happened is the Corbynista Police and Crime Commissioner Simon Foster, good riddance to him when he gets removed, basically has turned around and said, don't worry about it. We all know you're on the way out, but I can organise for you to retire rather than be sacked. That will cost the taxpayer like £2 million. And
they said, and the reason he said, it's because of the media, frenzy and all that.
Not even apologised.
Exactly, not even apologised, as they don't. Anyway, West Midlands Chief Craig Guilford is to retire after major criticism of his handling of a ban on Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from a match in Birmingham. He will leave immediately, having resisted calls to resign after a report found he exaggerated evidence and justified Force's decision. Guilford said retirement was in the best interest of the organisation. Being sacked would have been better.
No, I'll tell you what, public flogging is in the best interest.
This is what's that law called where you do it in service? You break the law within.
Oh, it's misconduct in public office.
Well, that's a criminal offence.
Yeah. Yeah. But Asha, do you know something? This I think that you and your brother and others have been overly sympathetic to these people. What they're talking about is your family, and you know how they always go, immigrants built the UK, right, that's garbage. Asha, your family have been in the UK for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Your family apparently, Lois told me this, were major business people in Birmingham. You can tell from your accent you're from Birmingham. You know.
Well, originally London, Birmingham from about 1820s, originally London from 1650s.
But the reality is, how can you forgive a system in your home city that says a Jew is not allowed to walk down the street? You must have walked down that street hundreds of times to Villa Park.
There was one of the founders was Jewish. You know, there's a lot of history, obviously there. But I mean, when you look at the whole way in society, look at our government. We've got a tyrannical government that's done a coup against us, cancelling elections, trying to stop jury trials. You know, locking up political prisoners who don't agree with them. And
I want to ask you.
We live in this crazy.
I want to ask you, the viewers and listeners, this question, because I often get the impression from Jewish friends of mine that they roll their eyes and go, "Oh God, this is what always happens." This country stood firm in the Second World War. I believe that you, as viewers and listeners, are proud of the way that we stood up to Nazism and the fact that we are becoming just like Germany, just like France, just like Belgium, just like Hungary and all these places that were anti-Semitic. How does it feel now to live in a country where Jews can say with confidence, you are as bad as continental Europe was in the 1930s? How does it feel? 0344 499 1000. Let's get straight into it with Cindy from Michigan.
Hey guys, how are you?
We're all right, man. How's it going in America?
Yeah, it's going good. We're under the rule of Trump, and I hope he calls the National Guard into.
Yeah, well, isn't he under special measures now? Isn't he bringing, what do they call it in America, into Minnesota? They're bringing it into a state of emergency or something? Or insurrection, the insurrection law, isn't it? They're bringing in.
Right. Once he does, well, he hasn't done that yet, but once he does, he can bring in the National Guard.
I saw they smashed up these ICE cars and stole all the rifles off the FBI. I mean, that's national emergency, isn't it?
I know, it's a bloody disgrace. And I wanted to say...
Cindy, before you go any further, I just want to ask you a quick question. So...
Sure.
Look, everybody's agreed. If you are illegally in the United States of America, you should be forced to leave. But OK, let me just ask you this question. So there's been this thing about people unable to produce ID. In America, are you required to produce ID for police? How does that work with ICE agents? Because there are people saying, obviously, people who are black or Hispanic or whatever are more likely to get stopped by ICE agents. I get why that's the case. But also, if they're unable to show ID, would that mean that they are probably dodgy, or do most people not carry ID?
Most people carry ID. Most people have a driver's license.
Right.
Now, if you get stopped by the police, you are not required actually to show ID.
No.
What they would do is run your license plates.
What if you're not in a car? What if you're just walking down the street? You can just deny. I mean, in this country, you don't have to tell them who you are. Unless you're detained.
You know, I've never had that situation.
Yeah.
I just would imagine they would, if they had reason to suspect you were illegal, they could take you down to an office.
But presumably what would happen is you would go into a business and say you start talking to somebody and forget the colour of somebody's skin. Imagine somebody had an obviously Canadian accent. They presumably would say, listen, you sound Canadian to me. Can you show me your right to work in the United States of America? If they say, I'm not going to show you any ID at all, they'd be arrested, wouldn't they?
No.
Okay. What would happen?
Well, you'd probably be forced to go to like some kind of immigration office.
Oh, I see.
But they wouldn't be able to detain you unless they had grounds.
No, the point I'm making.
If they have reason to.
Well, if they have reasonable.
The point I'm making is if you walked in, say we were in America now, Asha, and ICE came in and they said, right, OK, Andre and Asher, and they started talking to us, they'd go, listen, Andre, you sound like you've got a Northern English accent. Asher, you sound like you've got a Birmingham English accent. If you can't show us that you're American citizens or have a green card, we're going to take you down the station. That's presumably what they do. It's got nothing to do with the colour of somebody's skin.
They normally say I sound Australian, ignorant. But I mean, what's happening? What's happened?
The difference.
What's happened in Minnesota and what's happening all over the states is people have been whipped up to think, oh, Trump's a Nazi, these ICE agents are the SS, and they're going to take you away. And it's like, of course, it would be rational to go out and fight against Nazis, but these people believe it. They've actually been talked into it by this whipping up of the hysterical stuff from these Democrat politicians and you know, speakers.
Yeah, they're all fired up and they believe it because there's propaganda, tons of propaganda on the news. That's all you see.
But then they're also narcissists, so they think they can stand up against the police who don't take any crap in the States, and you know, it's ended in tragedy with this woman shot in the face.
Well, yeah, what kind of normal person
Well,
is...
she's not normal, is she? She's been whipped up by these politicians and these media people.
But what you want to do very simply is this. You want to say, I disagree with Donald Trump and I disagree with ICE. Therefore, what I'm going to do is two things. Number one, I'm going to campaign for the Republicans to lose the next presidential election. And number two, I'm going to campaign to change the law. Because there is a central point, Cindy, isn't there? Which is this. Millions upon millions of people are working in the United States of America illegally. Now, if you want them to stay in the United States of America, there's nothing wrong with that, but you should change the law to allow them to stay rather than simply ignoring the law because you know you don't have votes in Congress to change it.
Right, and the third thing you would do is go out and make sure that you vote.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, this is what
These people, like Ash said, are narcissists.
Yeah, they want it their way, and that's it, and that's what the left do. You know, this is why we've got it in this country, cancelling elections, and no, we're right. You don't even have a say. It's ridiculous.
Right, so high and mighty that you think that you're this big enough person to confront a police officer and an ICE officer. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't do that.
No. I bet you would under the right circumstances. Yeah.
Well, it's a ludicrous proposition.
Yeah.
The law of the land says that these people are illegal migrants. The president has been elected on a ticket, on a manifesto of getting rid of these people. Simply saying, I'm going to thump an ICE officer in order to stop them to do it is ludicrous.
And also, it's a woman who's left two young children as orphans because the father has already died, all for some Somalians who couldn't give a crap about her.
Yeah, that's right. They probably want the sticker in the burqa anyway.
Anyway, thanks, Cindy. We've got a little break here. We're going through all the papers. 03444 99 1000. Caroline, Mark, Stephen, John, Mark, Roy, and we've got a couple of lines, and WhatsApp us on that number. We'll be back after this. After this.
Go on.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and we've got a special show tonight because we were told by our very good friend Kevin O'Sullivan that there were so many of you that wanted to talk about Craig Guilford, that a cowardly police officer who decided to victim shame the Jews who were banned from Villa Park. I've said on my YouTube channel, by the way, you can go to YouTube, search Andre Walker, I've said that Villa Park is in the middle of what is increasingly a tribal area. that is increasingly asserting its sovereignty. It has its own Sharia court. It has its own language. It has its own dress code. It has its own social structure. It has its own religion. And now what it's starting to do is say that it wants to be governed in a different way. This is the two-state solution for the United Kingdom. One state...
Well, it is governed in a different way.
Yeah, of course it is. And one of the rules of the tribal area is that Jewish people, particularly Israelis, are not allowed to go. Craig Guilford went along with that in contravention of his oath, in contravention of the law, and to blame the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, I think, was simply shameful. But we do have 3 slots available, so that means that if you call 03444991000, you will get through to our producer and you will be able to talk on the subject. And as I say, we've specially extended our phone in to give all the people that were trying to call join Kevin O'Sullivan an opportunity. Let's go for Wayne.
It's the Panasonic answer machine's flashing, and it's Wayne. Let's hear what Wayne's left on the answer machine.
Evening, Nash.
All right, man.
Evening, Andre. I'm a Villa fan.
Up the Villa.
None of them Muslims, you will never see one of them inside Villa Park. None of them have ever followed the club. They piggyback the club just to forward their own situation, like they always do. The police have allowed it. They've grown in stature, and now they own the whole area. But believe you me, if you look around Villa Park, whenever there's a game on, see how many brown faces you see, mates, from the Muslim community. There's none. It's an absolute joke, mate. You take it easy, guys. Ash, big love to the Jews, mate. You've had it really hard, and nobody condones any of this nonsense that's been going on. And we, as British citizens, we support you. But our government should be doing a damn sight more, mate. Big love to you all.
Thanks, mate.
Asher, can I ask you...
There are obviously Muslims
No.
but a lot of those guys outside were Liverpool fans.
Sure,
Fans.
but can I ask you a question about the point he's making, which is this? And it's actually... So he didn't quite say it in the way that I would say it, but he's making a point about integration, isn't he? Which is, you've moved to Aston Villa, you've moved to this... you've moved to Aston, you've moved to the area surrounding Villa Park, but actually... You have stayed within your own community. One would assume that if you live next door to Villa Park, you would be a massive Aston Villa fan. Yeah. He's complaining that even living next door to Villa Park hasn't led to people integrating.
Well, that was nothing to do with Villa fans. They sort of tried to frame it like that, but it wasn't. It was from the area, wasn't it, of the whole of Birmingham, and they were worried there was going to be, thousands of them. As it ended up, there was about 700, wasn't there?
But there's been huge attempts to make football non-racist, and I think that has succeeded. But my question is this: there still feels like a them and us attitude between migrant communities and, if you like, the indigenous population.
Well, that's encouraged, isn't it? Like you say, you're encouraged to come here and not accept our terrible British culture and history and bring your own culture, which, is not compatible.
I mean, it's understandable why somebody's going to get in touch and say the following, which I'm paraphrasing what Wayne is saying. It galls me to watch a group of people who should be supporting Aston Villa, who don't support Aston Villa, suddenly turning up saying they're offended about Maccabi Tel Aviv, shouting abuse at us, and we don't care. We wanted the match to go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was nothing to do with it. It was because they were Israelis and basically because they were Jews. That was it, and they don't like Jews. Simple as that. Anyway, let's go to Stephen in Sheffield. Hi, Steve.
Yeah, good evening, Andre and Ash.
All right, man.
Actually, what I'd like to bring to your attention is the appalling behaviour this evening of the Metropolitan Police outside the Iranian embassy.
Oh, we don't know. Go on.
Yeah, what's happened? What's happened, Steve?
Outside the Iranian embassy, the Iranian people, under instructions from the exiled king, have been told to protest outside the IRGC's embassies. They were stood outside there peacefully, and the Metropolitan Police came in, baton charged them, and beat them all up.
Really?
It was on Tuesday.
Oh, what a shock! What a shock that the Metropolitan Police are on the side of the baddies.
And what I'm saying, we're on Tuesday TV on YouTube, and what I'm saying is, it's outrageous. It's not been on the mainstream media. and it's absolutely disgusting.
Well, I saw a similar...
Obviously, they've been ordered by Khan to do that. They're actually defending the IRG...
I saw a similar case outside an IRGC building. Some Iranian journalists were outside. This was in West London somewhere. I can't quite remember, maybe Ealing or something. And basically, it was an IRGC house. They have these houses started all... And these guys ran out all dressed in black, beat the crap out of these journalists. I think one was quite seriously injured. The police did nothing about it. I mean, a lot of these institutions are infiltrated. We hear about the Home Office. You know, the police are making some... And as you say, the mayor, who's the head of, basically, the police... He is the police commissioner.
This is not some small matter that just needs dismissing after hand. This is majorly serious.
I know, and also when you look in Iran, they've actually cowed the people into staying in now. Donald Trump needs to pull his finger out and do something, because now they've come off the streets because they're all getting shot. I mean, they were saying 12,000. Do you know what
I think Donald Trump should have said? Which is what Maya Toosey would have said, by the way, if he was an advisor to the American president. If you execute these young people, I will kill the Ayatollah Khomeini. I will kill the supreme leader. What I will do is I know where he is, because I know where every world leader is, and I will have a missile strike on it, and I don't care what you say, because I'm going to tell you, you execute these young people, I will kill your supreme leader.
That's how they've got out of it. Iran haven't executed the people, but they're just shooting the people on the streets, so they've actually got out that way, and this red line has not been crossed. But, you know, Trump needs to do something about this, because otherwise it's dying on the vine, this revolution.
This is about Iranian people in London this evening.
Yeah, no, I know, exactly.
The police are defending a terrorist organisation.
And you look at what happened at the Iranian embassy back in, was it 78 or 79 it was in Thatcher's first year when they did that raid on it. And this is exactly now we're backing the terrorists.
Yeah.
By the way, in the past week, Tuesday TV, the live broadcasts have had 50,000 people watching live. That is an extraordinary number.
But this needs to be brought to the government.
Well, the government will be delighted.
But this tonight, it doesn't just need dismissing and forget about it, and then it's tomorrow's chip paper. This is a major...
Yeah, but what do you think our government's going to do about it? They're also on the same side as them.
The opposition parties need to do something. The press need to do something.
Yeah.
It needs to be out.
Well, it's only us and maybe one other place that's saying anything, and where you can phone up and talk about this sort of thing.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's what I rung for.
Thanks, Steve. That was Steve in Sheffield. Nice one there. Let's go to Daniel in Shropshire. Daniel? Dan! Hi,
Andre. Hi, Ash.
All right,
Hello.
Dan. All right, then.
Cool.
Is that it?
By the way, just to be clear, sorry, I just want to be clear. I've just texted Maya Toosey, and he said, I can't come on your show tonight to discuss all this because I'm currently having to deal with the police over today's actions at the Iranian embassy. So there we have it.
Was he down there, was he?
Yeah, I think he was.
Go on, Dan. What do you want to say then? Dan!
Hello.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, what do you want to say, Dan? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Can you hear him?
Well, get on with it. Come on.
Yeah. When Ash said about
what? Dan.
Sorry, I'm really sorry about that.
No.
Just to be clear, before we go any further, I wasn't having a go at Daniel the caller. I was a bit annoyed about the fact that there was a technical problem. So when I said, "Oh, for God's sake, get on with it," that was not a reference to Dan the caller. So I'm really sorry about that.
Sorry if you're traumatised.
I'll tell you what, Dan, give us a call back. I'm really sorry. That was my fault.
Call Dan back. Let's get him on. We need to clear the air.
I should stop for a second. Yeah. I'm really sorry. I don't want to give the wrong impression about the way that we treat people who phone in. Caroline is in London. Caroline, you're on talk.
Now get on with it, Caroline.
Yeah, hi guys. Ash, this is quite serious, okay? I'm a little bit traumatised. I've just seen a live stream from Maya Tuesday about what's happened outside the Iranian embassy, and I have never in 63 years ever in my life seen the police behave
Tell us what you saw. Tell us with your eyewitness what you saw on the video, because we don't know anything about this. Tell us what you saw.
Well, this is going to go viral because this is so horrific. I mean, Maya's going to do something. So basically, there was Iranians standing outside the embassy very peacefully, saying shame on the government for not standing up for the Iranians. You know, very peaceful, and then there was Palestinians on the other side. And I've never seen so many police. They came, they literally started hitting and beating up the peaceful protesters supporting, not supporting the IRCG. And there was a 70-year-old man, all head bang, blood everywhere. They were literally like the Nazis, the police. I don't know what kind of police they were. And clearly,
well, they're Sadiq Khan's police, aren't they?
Well, no, I've never seen them like this, Ash and Andre, never in my life. And it's really terrifying.
It is horrendous.
Really.
So look. I think we're going to have a guest coming on in a second, but I just want to ask you, explain precisely what was broadcast on the My Tuesday channel, because obviously Asher and I'm
going to try and look it up.
We haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so I'm shaking with shock, to be honest. Can't quite take it in. So basically, Nihat Gould was there, just filming.
Who works with Maya Tuesday, yeah.
Yes, he was not talking to anyone. He was just standing with his camera, and then he went more close up to get photographs of the police. Literally behaving like the RC. I've never seen police.
Well, I mean, they don't like Nihat because he obviously they call him Banana Man. They arrest him all the time for nothing, for saying Hamas are terrorists, and they've got a problem with him, haven't they?
Absolutely, but the police went up to him, really aggressively, screaming at him to get away. He said, "I'm just a journalist. I'm just filming." Anyway, I don't know how many police were there, but they were literally pushing people on the ground. One guy couldn't breathe properly. There was two older men. The whole head. They were hit by the police.
I can see now, and they're just attacking. The police seem to be attacking people with flags, and they're getting their truncheons and they're striking out very hard to people who don't seem to be being violent. They're obviously now sort of trying to defend themselves, and they're just getting hit more. But I couldn't see why the police have started lashing out at them.
Well, because they've obviously got orders. So our government, Starmer hasn't said one thing, really, hasn't made a statement about the Iranians.
He hasn't made a statement about anything, has he?
No, he's opening the biggest embassy right by the Royal Mint, a Chinese embassy, which is our arch enemy. There's no saviour here. I don't know I think the country has fallen. I'm not being dramatic.
Well, no, it has fallen. We've got a tyrannical government. We've had a coup, and, they're cancelling elections, trying to get... it's happening before our very eyes.
I don't understand the British, Ash. I don't understand it. I think too many people are still watching BBC and Sky News, haven't got a clue about the immigration problem, about the rape, about what Starmer's doing, about anything, and they're asleep. And before they know it, it is going to be too late. And
they're beating a man on the floor here who they've got under full control. They're just hitting him, the police. I can see.
Yeah. They really are, and this needs to go viral. I'm sure Trump's going to see this.
Well, look, Caroline, we've got to take a little break. Can we keep you on, and we'll talk to you after the break? But we'll be back with Caroline, talk more about this breaking news, about this police trouble, attack outside the Iranian embassy against protesters. And we'll be back. It's Talk in 2 minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So, just to be clear, tonight on Tuesday TV, for those of you that don't know, it's owned by My Tuesday. They broadcast a violent attack by police, Metropolitan Police officers outside the Iranian embassy. Caroline is a viewer and listener to Talk TV, but also a viewer of Tuesday TV. And you said you were so shocked by it that you feel that this country now has become a police state.
Well, it is, isn't it? People are being arrested for nothing, for tweets. They're coming after the British, okay? You know, where does it end? I don't even know where to start.
Well, let's talk to Maya. We've got Maya Tuesday on here. Stay on the line, and Maya, okay. What have you seen? Because you've obviously got NIAC down there, and were you down there yourself? And what have you seen? What's going on? It looks horrendous, the pictures.
Absolutely disgusting scenes. Thank you guys for covering this as well. And we had NIAC, our Tuesday reporter, on the ground. Obviously, these protests have been going on for days and weeks now outside the embassy, but the police suddenly became very confident, suddenly became very robust, suddenly became very physical very quickly. We have multiple people on the ground injured. This is not accidental injuries because of arrests. They were being beaten up by the police.
I saw one on the floor, and he just keeps smacking him while he's fully under control. I mean, there's 3 coppers on him, and he just smacks him on the floor with something in his hand.
Before we go any further, Maya, it sounds like what you're saying, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, that suddenly something clicked, like there was an order from Gould Command, go and attack the protesters. What do you think triggered it?
Yeah, so first things first, again, we don't have the evidence, but the way the action worked by the police, it does appear that there was an order. This was not spontaneous. This was not a couple of police officers. Everybody, they had their batons out, and mostly the people who are injured are elderly and women.
Were there head injuries? Because they looked like they were swinging at their heads, properly swinging out.
Yeah, most of them heads, and one of them, I believe, has now broken his leg as well. We're getting more information. But the biggest crime right now that I'm seeing, if we are supposed to be living in a country with rule of law, is that our reporter was attacked 3 times by 3 different police officers for doing his job. He was, and it's on record. You can see it on CCTV Live. But that is a whole different problem, because recently, a few months ago, NIAC had to go to court, and the judge ruled in his favor that he is a CCTV journalist and reporter, even though he's not mainstream media. We won that case. And apparently tonight the police said, no, we don't care, we're just going to beat you up. And this is the biggest problem right now.
So let me ask you this. So people, so obviously, I'm your godfather, aren't I? I was your confirmation sponsor when you converted to Catholicism. So you and I have known each other for a long time, but people won't necessarily know that you are Iranian. That's your background, and you had to escape that country because of the disgusting Islamic regime there. Explain. And
your dad's a political prisoner out there.
So explain what you've been broadcasting on Tuesday TV and why it's so important for this country.
So as you said, my mother obviously escaped Iran as a political refugee. She came to the UK to be safe. Now, if you talk to her, she would tell you that she doesn't feel safe here anymore. And you know, a lot of our people that we know are leaving the United Kingdom, are fleeing the UK. I've been reporting on what's going on the ground in Iran because a lot of the actual news broadcasters like BBC and Sky News didn't really report it until now 10 minutes ago, and they only report what the regime are telling them. And because of that, I get death threats. I got attacked by the IRGC in London, and the Met Police said they don't have resources to protect me. Fair enough. But they have enough resources tonight. For those who go and watch the footage, they have enough police officers on the ground to defend the Islamic Republic embassy. And not that it was being attacked or like people like, for example, breaking the windows or anything like that. And there was one person who wanted to go...
Maya, just so I can be clear on this, also clip for social, just so I can be clear on this, are you saying that you, Tuesday TV, a legitimate media outlet with 1.3 or 4 million 1.3 or 4 million subscribers on YouTube, you sent a journalist down to film a peaceful protest outside the Iranian embassy, and suddenly the police got nasty and started beating up the protesters? Is that the allegation?
The allegation is definitely that they started antagonizing the the protesters by initially kettling them in before anything even started. They were just chanting, UK government, stop supporting the terrorists. And then they basically brought in more people, more police officers, batons out already before anything kicked off. They never do that, but this time they did that. And you can see the evidence that these guys clearly...
They were looking for a reaction so they could go in and start clubbing people. Do you think Sadiq Khan, who is the, police commissioner for London, do you think he's over this? Do you think there's something to do with him?
Well, he's in charge, and Shabana Mahmood is also basically in charge on a more central government level. Yeah. And clearly... the benefit of the doubt, best case scenario, is that these guys are terrified of what the IRGC could do if the embassy is being disrupted, because the Islamic Republic recently, a few days ago, summoned the British ambassador to complain that there are protests outside our embassy in London. Obviously, the British government have now closed the British embassy in Tehran a couple of days ago. Why can't we act in London? If they close the embassy, why is the Islamic Republic embassy open?
But is this the same allegation? Tonight, we've been talking about Craig Guildford. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Craig Guildford in the West Midlands is a police officer who basically capitulated to an Islamist plot to kill Jewish people. What we are saying is the Chief Constable in the West Midlands banned Maccabee Tel Aviv from Villa Park because he was under threat from the Islamists. Are we now saying that the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police as well is now beating up Iranian democratic protesters because the Iranian Islamic fascist regime has asked them to do it?
Listen, I go further. We are going to take legal action to defend our reporter anyway against the mess, but I'm going to go further. We need to get the information about the meetings and briefings they had, just like in West Midlands, what happened with the football supporters. I need to know what sort of discussions they had that before anything kicked off, somebody told them, tonight, you can do whatever you want. They've never done anything like this to the left-wing protesters, to the Palestinian protesters. This is absolute insanity. We need to know who said what prior to this.
Well, I want to say this.
Say something.
No, can I just say something that's important, Caroline, before we go to you? I want to say one thing, mine. This is not because we're mates. This is not. You have set up an independent journalistic outfit, 2CTV, which has been at the forefront globally of reporting on the implosion of the Islamic regime. I will tell you, as journalists at News UK, we will stand shoulder to shoulder with you and NIAC when you assert your right to report in London on what is taking place at the Iranian embassy. The idea that journalists are being beaten up in baton charges by Sadiq Khan's Metropolitan Police is wholly unacceptable, and we won't allow that.
But they hate NIAC because he's won in legal cases. They've arrested him on spurious reasons. Do you think that ratcheted it up and they go, right, we've had enough of this guy and these lot?
They really don't like him. They don't like him. Just one tiny thing. We just got breaking news that the BBC have now just reported that they've reported that protesters started attacking the police. Now, we have the evidence anyway.
Not surprised.
But I can tell you why this is happening. The mainstream media, the actual Sky News, BBC, were not there. What they do is they get the statement from the police, and the police could tell them whatever they want to tell them.
Like Hamas, like the Hamas Health Agency, exactly like that. I mean, but also the IRGC, they have sort of their own buildings in London, and obviously the Islamic Brotherhood. What's all that about? Because I saw journalists getting beaten up and nothing happened. What are these IRGC buildings and groups all over here?
We have literally an Islamic Republic headquarters in Maidavale. It's called the Islamic Center of England, funded and controlled by Ali Khamenei from Tehran. And they also, in 2020, during the lockdown, they stole British taxpayers by pretending to be a company on Companies House, even though they have a charity status. They got furlough money. They sent the furlough money to Iran. No one did anything about it.
Well, they wouldn't. Well, and also, what's your thoughts on what's going on in Iran? They've killed so many people now. People are now scared. You can't blame them coming out on the streets. Is Trump letting the side down? Is it all petering out, or what is going to happen? What's the future in Iran?
No, the US troops are still mobilizing. They're still going towards the Middle East. It's going to take a few days. They were going to take action a couple of nights ago, but they cancelled it last minute because apparently it wasn't going to be enough. But people are still out there in parts of Iran. The videos are not coming out. This is exactly what they wanted. Shut down the internet. The world will think the protests have stopped.
I think it's over for them anyway. Caroline, anything you want to say to Maya?
Yes,
she's a big fan.
Yeah, Maya, hi. I listen to you every day. You're the only person that brings hope to me. But what I want to say to you is, with all your contacts, this needs to go viral. It needs to go to Elon Musk. It needs to go to Trump. It needs to go everywhere. The British population who don't watch 2CC, who don't watch Talk TV, who listen to the BBC, they have got to wake up. People need to see this, because people are going to watch the BBC and they're going to believe it. And it's gone. You've got to get this viral. I can't do that. Obviously, I can't.
I think it is already going viral with what we're seeing.
Yeah, let's leave Maya to answer.
Big shout out to Talk and you guys for reporting this.
Thanks, Maya.
Well, I just want to say one thing, Caroline. I hope that you are feeling a little bit better, because you were visibly upset, audibly upset when you phoned up. But Maya, I just, I think we're going to finish this off now, just to say that, I just want to reiterate that, just so Caroline and all the viewers and listeners know that we would always stand toe-to-toe with you, shoulder to shoulder with you. I will say to you one thing for all of our viewers and listeners. I remember one occasion, Maya, when you turned up to this building with a couple of goons from the Iranian embassy following you. I was pretty rude and abusive to them on that occasion, and I'm pretty happy to be rude and abusive now. But Maya, the final word goes to you. Sadiq Khan's Metropolitan Police beating up journalists, attacking the Ayatollah Khomeini.
I'm looking at 7-year-olds with smashed faces.
Okay, got it. But the final word goes to you, Maya. The Ayatollah Khomeini being supported by Sadiq Khan's Metropolitan Police. Your thoughts?
My thought is that we can complain about Sadiq Khan, the mayor. We can complain about the Home Secretary, Prime Minister. This goes deep to the British state, the Foreign Office. The decisions come from them. They refuse to designate the IRGC as a terror group. I'm saying this not to defend Iranians. I'm saying this to defend people in Britain. Defend your country. Get rid of these people, not just the Labour government, but also the IRGC.
Maya Toosey, you are a hero. That is Maya Toosey. He is the founder of Toosey TV, and as I said to you earlier, I was incredibly proud to be his confirmation sponsor and sponsored his baptism when he joined the Catholic faith last year. Anyway, I just want to say to you, obviously, we were originally talking about Craig Guilford, but now that report from Toosey TV that the Metropolitan Police were sent in with batons to beat up journalists who were reporting on what was happening at the Iranian embassy. But moreover, even more dangerous, the BBC, Sky and ITV are already lying about what happened to Toosey TV tonight. 0344 499 1000. You can get in touch with the show, and we hope that you will. We're going to be taking your calls for the next hour.
Thanks, Gareth.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, it's Andre and Ash on Talk, and we're talking about all what's going on in the news. But the breaking news at the moment is it looks like just the police have just overreacted outside the Iranian embassy to some peaceful protesters. They kettled them in, and then they seem to just suddenly turn. They've all put their riot helmets on. They're beating people on the floor. It really looks excessive, and I don't think they were really kicking off the protesters. They were just protesting, waving their flags, and it just looks like they were attacked. Obviously, we haven't got the full information on what's happened, but it does look horrendously excessive, and we haven't seen anything like this before. And I guess drama like this since the 70s. I
guess if we're going to give some breaking news, then it would be that that tonight talkTV has announced that they're going to sue the Metropolitan Police over the incident at the Iranian embassy that took place on Friday night. That incident, they contend, was a baton charge against unarmed and innocent protesters who had been outside the Iranian embassy on the request of Reza Pahlavi, who is the Crown Prince of Iran. These protests have been going on for some time. talkTV contend that their journalists have the right to be there, and that the British police are now being forced by the Iranian Islamic regime to beat up British nationals who disagree. And what was amazing to hear from Maya Toosey a second ago was not his concern about Iran, but his concern about Britain, about the fact that in Britain we now have Islamist fascist gangs from the Middle East calling the shots over our police. I don't think there's much else I can say about that, but what I will say is let's go to Ken in London. Ken, you're on Talk.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I'd like to talk about another subject, if you don't mind. This is just my opinion about the departure of Christianity in our nation. I think one of the main reasons, in my opinion, is the enforced indoctrination and teaching of the false theory of evolution in all the schools. This is one of the dangers which leads people away from considering God our creator. And if you'll allow me, I would like to just reveal to you 4 short questions which prove that evolution theory is not real science. It's actually science fiction. 4 short questions that not one evolutionist scientist can answer.
Okay, what is your first question?
First question is this. Before the so-called miraculous Big Bang happened, there was absolutely nothing. No earth, no material, no chemicals, no oxygen, nothing. So the question for the scientists, which they can't answer, is this: how can nothing produce anything?
Okay, your second question.
Explode? Second question, what is the origin of the universe?
Well, that's the same thing as what you just... That's sort of like the first question again, isn't it?
No, that's about the nothingness. What is the order? The connected ash.
Okay, your third question.
Third question, what is the origin of life? Now,
well, that's like the first and second question again.
No, that's
the
a
fourth question.
Man.
They're all the same question with different ways. The fourth question.
Listen, let me bring to your attention the third question. You allow free speech.
I thought we'd done that in the first two ones.
According to the scientifically proven theory of biogenesis, life can only arise from pre-existing life.
They're a good band. Better with Phil Collins on the drums. Your fourth question.
Life cannot... Listen, Ash.
It was the Big Bang, wasn't it?
You're a bit ignorant, son.
I know.
You're a bit
I got biology A-level, Ken, eh? Only an E, but nevertheless, all counts.
I'm explaining to you that life...
I passed all my A-levels with E's. Good one, that is. Sorry, Ken, your fourth question.
Life cannot arise from dead matter. That's a scientific fact.
Well, I thought that's what happened to Jesus. Anyway, look, thanks, Ken. As his freedom of speech exercise, let's go to Heather and Gervan.
By the way, we normally give Ken loads of time to talk, but we've got this 2CTV story that's really huge tonight. So let's go to Heather and Gervan. Heather, did you watch the footage from the Iranian embassy?
More news about what's going on with the Iranian pro-Palestinian demonstration. There's also one that's going on in Athens, in Greece at the moment.
This wasn't pro-Palestinian, right? This was anti.
I want you all to check on your Google, find more updates of what's going on. Not just in London, across the world, it is happening worldwide. This demonstration about this pro-Palestinian. Pro-Iranian.
Right. So let's just pull this down. I think there is one thing that most people. So Heather Ingavan has got a little bit confused. Now, by the way, one thing I'm going to say to you is you never get told off on this show for not knowing absolutely everything. But I think it's reasonable to say these are the same people that are instructing the police to have a go at protesters outside the Iranian embassy, the same people who are being anti-Semitic in the West Midlands, the same people who are being pro-Palestinian, the same people, all the same people. And I'll tell you what the government of the United Arab Emirates says it is. They say it's the illegal Muslim Brotherhood terrorist organisation that they say now is domiciled in the UK. Grace in London, you're on Talk.
Hi, I didn't quite catch all of Ken's questions because I was calling in, so I didn't hear the fourth one. But I would...
You're very lucky, Grace.
No, I think it's...
no, it was interesting, but we didn't have time at the moment with all this news breaking, but they did sound similar, the questions.
I'd want to clarify for anyone outside of Christianity that Christianity and evolution aren't opposed. I do think that Ken has a very good point that for a lot of people, the idea of evolution has deterred them from Christianity because people mistakenly think that evolution has disproven the necessity of
as
God.
you say, Grace, evolution, I've tried to explain this to Ken, you could have a creator and then evolution is just invented by the creator to improve on his creation.
Yeah. I think it is the case.
He won't accept that, though. He calls me the Antichrist when I tell him that.
I mean, I've heard Dawkins, for instance, saying that he found the theory of evolution to be a reason to kind of not believe in God. Some people think that evolution means there's no reason.
Well, even Darwin, the discoverer of evolution, believed in God.
Yes, and as Ken pointed out, even if because he, in the questions I heard, Ken didn't actually talk about evolution. He talked about the universe and life needing an origin.
He refuses to believe in evolution on top of a creator. He just says, and you can't argue with him about it.
Yeah, so the creator can have created via the process of evolution.
That's what I said, but he won't accept it.
There still needs to be an origin. I have very mixed feelings about evolution from a scientific perspective, and scientists are continually kind of updating their ideas about it. But I came to conclude while I was looking at the biological processes within cells that they have to have a designer.
Well, of course there's evolution. I mean, that's why your parents, often the kids look like their parents because genes have passed over, and if you've got a disease that will occur when you're young, you might get it, it'll be passed on, and you won't reproduce, and this is evolution. So eventually the ones reproduced are, the ones with the... It's a filtering system, and you could say it is invented by the creator.
Yeah, that's essentially it, but it's very complicated because of the complexity at a molecular level of the processes within the cells, and because the molecular processes within cells are reliant on each other, the idea that evolution step by step could happen on its own without direction.
Exactly. I actually think there is a creator and evolution.
And a lot of Christians do, and it's frustrating that quite a lot of people outside.
Can I ask you both the question? So I always thought that Genesis was basically just a simplistic explanation. Right? I don't believe that Genesis is literally true. Is that your view?
Well, yeah, I suppose so. What about you, Greg? Because 7 days is a lot to build all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we use day in a way of referring to a previous time. We might say back in my day.
It can mean a year a day, yeah, in the Bible.
And yes, so it's not clear that it necessarily refers to 24-hour period.
But God could do that. I mean, he is God.
Yeah, he could do, but it seems, and a lot of theologians have concluded, it's probably a kind of allegorical, poetic way of describing.
But it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't.
Even God.
It doesn't matter that Moses didn't live to an age of 850, right?
No.
What matters is he was an incredibly old man, and by the time they wrote down the scripture,
he looks it.
Yeah, you know. Do you know what I mean?
A rough life up there.
I mean, also there are other things that are interesting within the Bible. So, as an example, we now know that the Straits of Gibraltar have silted up on at least 8 occasions. Yeah. And what that means is that the Mediterranean Sea has dried out 7 times and flooded 8 times. We know that for a fact. Yeah. Now, of course, the book about Noah and his ark is about the whole world being flooded with water. But you can very easily see how silting up of the Strait of Gibraltar and then the Mediterranean drying out and then suddenly flooding again would lead for somebody to build a boat and all that.
Well, exactly. The world. I mean, the Roman Empire and the Chinese major, I think, the Ming Empire, they existed at the same time. These amazing empires. They never knew about each other's existence. Maybe the odd one here and there, buying a bit of silk or spices.
Yeah, when the account of Noah refers to a flood of the whole world, it could theoretically be referring to the world as in
as they knew it. Yeah,
exactly. At the time.
Well, this is they
were stupid back then. We forget that.
The argument for the Bible and the Quran and the Torah being fake is that they were unaware of the existence of America and China. But of course, the books were also written in order to appeal to people at the time who didn't know about this stuff. Anyway, let's move on because we are interested in this Tuesday TV thing. Let's go to Roy in Hampshire. Roy, you're on talk.
Good evening, lads.
All right, Roy. Morning.
The state of our country, mate. Why our police are doing that in the Iranian embassy? Apparently, they're dropping chemicals on the protesters out in Iran tonight.
Wow.
Well, what's that got to do with what's going on in London outside the embassy? You think
it's got everything to do with that?
Well, do you think they're following the Iranian the regime? Do you think something's going on like that? I mean, it is possible, isn't it?
Well, this has got to come from Starmer, mate, or
Khan. Well, Khan is the head of the Metropolitan Police, the Commissioner.
But let's just put this to both Asher and Roy, and all of you viewers and listeners can think about this as well. If the allegation by Maya Toosey, which he made exclusively on this show tonight, is correct, then what happened was a legitimate journalist who has won a case to prove he's a legitimate journalist arrived at a protest outside the Iranian embassy, and suddenly, almost like the Matrix, everybody grabbed their earpiece in the police. They had received an order to go and beat up protesters, and they went in and kicked the living daylights out of them. Now, this matter will go to court, and the court will decide who is right, Toosey TV or the Metropolitan Police. But I have to say, whilst I was talking to Maya Toosey, Asher Gould very kindly went onto his phone and was watching a lot of the footage. And it's fair to say, even I could hear him sort of sounding shocked and disgusted by the whole thing.
Well, they were battering 70-year-old men on the floor.
If the allegation is true that the Metropolitan Police were instructed to beat up journalists from Toosey TV in defence of the Ayatollah Khomeini, then we have hit a new low, Roy, haven't we?
We go back to the two-tier policing again. You know, they have all these Palestinian marches and they don't do anything about it. If it's Tommy Robinson, I've got no time for the man. They go in and they kick 7 bells out of him.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. And the reality is, we don't speak for Tommy Robinson, but my point is, and I always make, is that there has to be fair policing for everyone. And if you're going to raid Tommy Robinson's house every week, you have to raid Anjam Chowdhury's house every week. But of course, the Bedfordshire Police didn't do that. But I will say one thing. I will say one thing. I'm stunned by the fact that there has been so much abuse of Tuesday TV. Now, I'll tell you something else about my Tuesday. Maybe I shouldn't say this. His dad has been under house arrest in Iran for 20 or 30 years. And my Tuesday himself has been sentenced to death by the Islamic Republic. I'll tell you something. I saw them. They came here. They came here. Honestly, 2 goons from the Iranian embassy.
I tried to grab him and put him in a van.
Yep. And we have, and this is certainly not something I'm going to be specific about, but I had to speak to my boss about security for this building, about the fact that there were threats from the IRGC over Maya Tuesday. I will tell you, these people are wrong-uns, and the fact that the Metropolitan Police is pandering to them is a disgrace.
Look at this, there's an old man here, a peaceful protester, Iranian, and he's obviously with his brother, and he's got severe injuries on his forehead. He's obviously been battered by a truncheon on his forehead. You're not meant to protesters that hard. This is a 70-year-old man. He's got a big gash on his face. He's got 3 massive sort of almost holes and dents, and he's in a very bad way. And you can see them. They're actually restrained people, and they're still battering them while they're on the floor. Obviously, Maya's going to look into this and what happened and where these orders came from to just suddenly strike out. If anything else did happen, we'll look into that. You know,
well, we will. I think we will say as we go to a break now. It is for the court to decide, but I would say, and I think Asher would applaud this as well.
Overreaction.
It's always important for us to say that we stand up for you as journalists, and we attempt to do the right thing, and we feel a great sense of duty. Now, Asher and I muck about, but we do feel a great sense of duty, and we would never allow the police to beat up somebody reporting on something with the Islamic regime. Roy, thank you so much.
By the way, have you seen Benjamin, what he said there? Don't read that out, whatever you do. Don't read that out. But yeah, he likes what he sees. Anyway, we'll be back. It's Andre now, 03444991000. It's going to be all about your calls. T, John, Mark, Phil, Mark, Paul, Tristan, back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk. I think we're pretty blown away by the messages that we've got in, particularly from Benjamin in Essex. And we really appreciate all of those messages that have come in. 03444991000 is the number to call. Now, listen. Yesterday, Charles Amos appeared on the show. He's the man with the 1970s styling. And it's fair to say that loads of people have been in touch with me and loads of people have been in touch with you, about with the gallery, rather, about what he said. One of his biggest fans is Tristan in Southend. Tristan, what is it about Charles that you find so appealing?
Yeah.
Andre, I'm going to swing for you. You know I hate that man with a passion. He is awful.
Why?
Why? He's from the Victorian years. What the hell?
Yeah, but his arguments make a lot of sense.
Are you having a laugh, Ash? I love you dearly, but there's no need for that. Come on.
No, but you've got to admit the workhouse thing's quite a good idea.
Oh, you two have been talking and so stuck.
Sacking lollipop ladies. Aren't you sick of lollipop ladies just causing traffic everywhere? Wouldn't we be better rid of them? Pensioners, they get too much. They've got too much. They're the bottom quintile or whatever he says, and they're all taking all the goodies.
Genuine offer. Next time he's in your studio, I will come to London free of charge and I will take him on in your studio and give him a good piece of my mind.
Now, I've heard you've said you're going to boycott talk until we don't have him on anymore.
We won't do that.
If he comes on the screen, I will switch over until...
How will you know he's come on the screen?
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean, over the airwaves.
If you hear him, yeah.
So I always get criticised for the guests that I bring on. What you have to remember is, Asher and I are not the bosses of the show. As you know, there's a producer who makes decisions about all of it. Why not watch somebody that you fundamentally hate and disagree with?
Why? Because he grinds my gears, Andre. He goes too far. Right, okay.
Let's stop for a second. If zero is the most inoffensive thing you can think of, which is probably Asher Gould, right, and the most offensive thing you can think of is James O'Brien, and Asher Gould is 0 and James O'Brien is 10, where is Charles Amos on that scale?
Charles Amos, or who can I say? He is... who's that journalist who used to be on Talk? Terrible guy.
Vanessa Feltz.
Owen Jones.
No. Oh, I've forgotten his name.
Christo Fufas.
That was it. Yeah, he's up there with Piers Morgan. I hate that man. I really do.
What about Andrew Ebon? Right, can I tell you the ones? Can I tell you the bad ones? Right. If you're thinking of the ones you don't like, you're thinking about the Alexis Conrans, you're thinking about the Andrew Eborns, you're thinking about the Christo Fufases. Those are the ones who those are the ones who like in the presenters' lounges nobody ever talked to, right?
Really?
Not even Hartley Brewer, and she's willing to insult anyone. Believe me.
Oh,
Christ, look at the gallery, they're going wild. Going wild.
Loose lips.
Yeah, Trisha, the only one good thing about Trisha Goddard was that she was in the United States of America and never actually came into the
No, she used to be here sometimes.
No. Yeah. Oh, she was awful, wasn't she?
She's a pleasant lady, though. Pleasant lady.
There's been some real
very
rotters.
Pleasant.
There's been some real rotters, aren't there?
Yeah, but she was actually nice in the breaks when you said hello to her.
Well, Trisha Goddard showed all her true colours when she went on Big Brother. She was nothing like she was trying to be on Talk.
Well, let's be clear. I didn't watch her on Big Brother, and I didn't watch her on Talk. Neither did anyone else.
No wonder.
Tom Newton.
But please, no more Charles Amos, guys.
Right.
No, I'm sorry, I disagree.
If we do, we'll get you in. Dee in Norfolk.
Hi.
Hi, Dee.
Yeah.
What's going on, Dee? What do you want to talk about?
The Iranian embassy this evening. I watched talkTV reporting on it. Yeah. The reporter he had down there was physically attacked at least 3 times.
Now, I'm just seeing, I don't know if this is true, but Andrew Fox is arguing, he's a friend of the show, he's arguing that protesters in London attacked the police first. I mean, even if someone it did look excessive, even if someone threw something, I mean, it looked excessive what they were doing to the people, some old people on the ground who obviously weren't really.
It was horrendous the way that.
But can I offer a rebuke of talkTV? Even though I love my Tuesday and he's a very good friend of mine, and I don't think you can have any more special a bond than to be the person who was the sponsor when he converted to Christianity. But a lot of these people, and I include our own presenters in this, go on about mainstream media this and modern media that and new media whatever. Actually, the reality is that we are all journalists together of whatever type, and it's time for people who are on YouTube to say, well, we are actually journalists, rather than saying there's a mainstream media and we're different. Do you see my point?
Yeah, no, totally, I do. But it's the way of the world at the moment, it appears. There's a like of them and us. So YouTube is where I go to watch yourselves, talkTV, etc. But the the film itself was, well, I felt physically sick. I still do.
Why was it so shocking? Because, by the way, Dee, and for people who've just tuned in, in fact, not a number of people, hundreds of people have called this show to say that they watched the attack on 2ZTV and were left shaking and shocked and whatever. What was so shocking about it?
It was the overzealousness, or whatever you want to call it, of the police. It was horrendous. They had batons drawn. They were like holding them up at their shoulders. They were going in for the kill. I don't mean that.
No, I understand.
They put their helmets on. They were in full riot gear, and they were going for it.
Yeah, totally. Totally. But literally, the people that they did grab and handcuffed, they had knees on their backs. They were really...
By the way, did we get any footage of the back of their helmets? Because the elite squad, the territorial support group, their helmets would be marked U at the back. I don't know if it was those that were sent in, but normally, if there was an ordered attack on protesters, then you would see U on the back of the helmets.
I couldn't tell you.
We'll check. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'll tell you what we're going to do, Dee. Asher is trying to get in touch with a contributor who was on the ground, who knows something about it. Why don't we go to a break? Asher can do what he wants to do. Dee, we're going to regroup.
Also, Andrew Fox is actually the head of the Jewish Villa fans. He's not Jewish himself, but he is a Villa fan, so he's got a lot of interesting take to talk on this useless copper that ended up retiring. But yeah, he's got a lot to say, I think, from what I'm looking at, about what's gone on outside the Iranian embassy in London. So we'll be back, hopefully, with him. It's me and Andre on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So this is the Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and the show's been a bit confusing tonight, and I want to explain why, because obviously we had so many calls into Kevin O'Sullivan about the whole Craig Guildford thing, which was all about the dishonesty, about Aston Villa and Maccabi Tel Aviv. Then we've had all this stuff about the attacks on attacks by the Metropolitan Police on 2ZTV, and of course the fact that that will now go to court. We will see how that works out. And look, as far as I'm concerned, this has become a special show about policing, but I think it's a wider issue than policing, isn't it? It's much more about the fact that time and time again, we feel we feel, rightly or wrongly, that we are not being defended by our public bodies, that actually we should have a right to go to a football match and we should have a right to protest outside an embassy. And when the police say it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, that's not true. One side is a terrorist group and the other side are a bunch of ordinary people going about their everyday business. Now, I know that the terrorists have got better lawyers than us, but that doesn't make them the same. It is not the same to be somebody who served in the IDF, which is a legitimate military force, and people who are an irregular volunteer for the Islamic State in Birmingham. Those two things are not the same, and the fact the police believe them to be the same is lamentable in of itself. Let's go to Greg in New Glasgow.
By the way, I've heard off the record from people from the police saying there was horrendous violence from the Iranian side, so we really need to get to the bottom and find out. But what I saw looked horrendous. But anyway, yeah, carry on, Greg.
I was thinking, like, that guy, the top cop last week who retired on his full pension.
Craig Guilford,
face the consequences of his actions. So is this new cops who gave the order?
I just want to ask you, Greg.
They retire on their pensions.
Yeah.
Greg, allow me to ask you this question: in the job that you did, imagine that you racially abused people. Imagine you blamed the victim of that for your own actions, and then you appeared in a court of law, and Parliament is a court, to lie about it in order to defend your own back. What do you think would happen to you? Do you think you'd be given £100,000 a year for life?
That's pure. No, you'd be put in jail for at least 7 years. They shouldn't be able to, once things like this happens, they shouldn't be able to go, I'm going to retire before facing the consequences of what they've done. Yeah. That's gross misconduct. The employees,
misconduct in public office as well.
Misconduct in public, and probably perverting the course of justice, possibly.
Plus, they'll get a big golden handshake to go away as a bonus.
He might even get another job, you know, in the police a lot of times, though, they might, because he hasn't actually been sacked or resigned, he's retired, he could actually get quite a tasty job with some official institution. I'm sure he will do.
It could become a consultant for.
But the other thing, Greg, there's lots. It's not just him that's lied. There's a whole stream of management and police in West Midlands, and also, of course, the commissioner, the Corbynist commissioner. There's a lot of other people where heads need to roll.
But especially at a night like this, the head guys will be keeping an eye on it. So somebody's gave the order.
But it's exactly. But I'll tell you what this reminds me of, Asher. It reminds me of the Paula Vennell's situation with the post office, where we turn around, and she cries, and I understand that she's upset, and I understand that she doesn't think of herself as a bad person, but she's made millions. And what happens is, all that'll happen is they'll hand the taxpayer the bill for all this, and Paula Vennell's continues. She's upset, she's been discredited, she's lost her CBE, but she probably lives in a £5 million house and has a pension of 200 grand a year.
And she's got blood on her hands. Postmasters killed themselves because of this. Pregnant women were going to kill themselves at 9 months pregnant.
Why do we accept from people in the public sector, I did my best? When Paula Vennell's turns around and says, I'm really sorry that I threw postmasters and postmistresses in prison, but hey-ho, I was doing my best. Give me my £500,000 payout. I mean, it's just garbage. It's unbelievable.
And wasn't she some sort of church minister?
She was a vicar,
Unbelievable.
It's just a continuation of the bullshit all the time. Everybody gets rewarded for their failures.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. Craig Guilford, by the way, tonight has not apologised for being a giant racist. And by the way, when I call Craig Guilford a racist, what you have to understand is this. I'm not bothered about his personal opinions. I'm not saying that he individually dislikes anybody. What I'm saying is his own cowardice and stupidity led to a racist decision that banned Jewish people from Villa Park. And the fact that he was doing his best is of no interest to me. What was important was whether his best was good enough, given he was being paid to do the job, and his best wasn't good enough.
He didn't uphold the oath of the police. Anyway, Andrea in Merseyside.
Hi, Andre.
Hello, love. How are you?
How is that?
Yeah, well, we've not had the pleasure yet, Ash.
Haven't we? Nice to meet you, Andrea.
And you. Listen, my thing is here, the police have picked a side. Look at the state of Cressida Dick. Look at the state of Mark Rowley. Look at Serena Kennedy. who did all that Southport thing there with that Ruda Cabana. They ended up getting rid of her. Now, they have picked a side. No one has any trust in the police. Now, I organise a protest here in St Helens Stowe Local Migrants Hotel. I also go to the Southport, Blackpool, Altrincham and Manchester, and we all support each other. Our biggest worry is the police.
What's your biggest worry?
The biggest worry with the police. Here's the thing. So we know that there are police officers that listen to this show. We know there are press officers of police forces. We're less interested in them. By the way, if you're a press officer for a police force, get a proper job. Genuinely, you're wasting your time. But there are ordinary constables. And by the way, if you are a police constable, you can phone us up with a fake name and we'd never disclose which force you're from or anything like that. But the reality is, I don't understand the following thing. Where is the Police Federation in all this? The Police Federation is an illegal trade union that we tolerate because actually they do a lot of good and behave in quite a responsible way. But the reality is, the leadership of the police has been taken over by woke, lefty, DAI or whatever they're called, people. But ordinary constables quite often are quite sensible. What I don't understand is why the alliance is between the Police Federation and ACPO, whereas it should be ACPO are the enemy and it's the Police Federation and the public who are mates together, because the Police Federation represent ordinary police officers. We like ordinary police constables. It's the College of Policing that's the Sith.
Yeah. I can understand that, but they seem to forgot that they are public service. They are paid from they're supposed to uphold the law and protect the public
without fear or favour. I mean, they're not upholding their vows.
I've got to be honest with you. I think any police constable who says that British policing is without fear or favour would be just trolling the public. Fear, they are afraid of the left and the Islamists, and favour, they favour the bad guys over the good guys, because what they say, even if you're a terrorist, you should be treated equally to a good member of the public. I don't agree with that.
And also, the other thing they did about 15, 20 years ago, I remember getting calls from lots of experienced coppers, ex-military, who were saying we're getting rid of them. Early redundancy. They were getting rid of the good ones so they can bring in the crap ones and control them. And that's why we've got useless police.
By the way, I was reporting from the United Kingdom march, and they sent in like a legion of police Oompa Loompas. Have you seen those ones that are like really little?
Special unit, the orange ones who are like that.
No. There was a group of them who must have been all on average about 5'4", and they were all really fat, and they sort of waddled in. And I said to this like TSG big lad, I went, bloody hell, I went, where did they find them? Do you know what they looked like? They looked like you should have thrown a 10-pin bowl at them.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You say the TSG, they still do have the hard, tough police, and they look like the ones that were getting involved tonight.
Yeah, the Oompa Loompa ones, they definitely won't send in. Those little ones waddling down the street. And what was funny about them was they clearly picked them all because they were the same height. It was hilarious.
Nice uniformity. John in Staffordshire. Hi, John.
Hi guys, how are you doing?
We're all right, man. We're all right. What's up, man?
I'm speaking from the inside. I'm an ex.
You're in prison?
No. I'm an ex-Midlands police officer.
Oh right.
Oh, excellent.
I used to work in the northeast as well as.
Fantastic. So, when did you retire? 10 years ago or something?
I got finished in 2010. I got injured on duty and I was there.
So what is your view? Because I know a Met police officer, he retired about 10, 15 years ago. He doesn't like being outed as a former Met policeman. He's embarrassed now. He used to be such a proud man. He was a sergeant, and now he's embarrassed. What's your view on what's gone on with the police?
I never tell people that I'm ex-police because I'm slightly embarrassed about the police service now.
Well, you shouldn't be embarrassed about your service, and I'd like to thank you for your service.
Well, thank you very much for that. What I initially found up about before the news broke about the riots going on, I heard Asher say that this police constable is going to finish on £100,000.
Yeah, well, that was me, but there was a guess.
Yeah, well, I've done a bit of research on this today when I was talking to my missus, and the minimum you will retire on as a chief constable is £133,000 a year.
Because is it 2/3 of your wages or something? Two-thirds?
Yeah, exactly.
And they get paid ridiculous amounts.
So he gets £150,000 a year for life.
Yeah, roughly, yes.
Yeah.
Now we had an assistant.
I mean, by the way, sorry to interrupt, John, but when I estimated 100,000, I almost choked at that figure. For you to phone up and go, Andre, how dare you underestimate it to such an extent?
She's on about 12 grand a month.
Depressing.
About 12 grand a month
to do nothing. I mean,
exactly.
But ironically, it's worth paying him to do nothing. But anyway.
And what a service he's done.
What you've got to bear in mind is he's going to get that for the rest of his life.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And he'll probably get another job, and if he does, he'll still get that pension on top of this another job, which is probably a telephone number figure job.
Well, without giving away which Midlands Force I worked for, we had a copper called Nick Adderley who got sacked for wearing a Falklands medal.
Outrageous.
When he wasn't entitled to wear it.
Outrageous. I saw there was one guy, and he arrested some kid with a knife, and he said, you know, he was a bit aggressive. He just grabbed, and he got sacked from.
Well, hang on, let's finish the story.
Yeah, well, we had a guy called Nick Adderley in a certain Midlands Force. Begins with staffs and ends with shire, and he was he retired as a deputy chief constable, which is the biggest con. Because if they do 6 months as a deputy chief constable in the chief constable's place, they get a full chief constable's pension.
And he wore his Falklands medal, you're saying?
Yeah, I remember him.
He wore a Falklands medal, which he claimed he'd earned. But when the Falklands War was going on, he was 14.
Right, which was made illegal, wasn't it, a few years ago?
Well, it's always been an offence to wear a medal.
Do me a favour, John. Why don't I've known many police constables in my life, and honestly, the people that I know now, this is the people that I mix with. These are people who go, do you know what? I really hate bullies. I really hate people who kick in women and kids and try. And do you know what? I'm going to be the hard man who stands up for the community. This idea of the thin blue line. Do you know what? If you're running off because of gunfire, I'm going to run into it with a baton if necessary. Those people I've had a great deal of respect for in my life. And how does it feel to be somebody who feels so ashamed now of the fact that you are a former police officer?
It's disgusting because I'm ex-forces as well. And I served my time I did 12 years in the armed forces. I did a couple of operational tours.
What, in Ireland, or where was that?
Yeah, I did 2 years in Northern Ireland, plain clothes, and I served in Bosnia twice, and I served in one of the Gulfs, and I thought I was going into what's the word I could say? An
honourable profession.
Yeah.
And a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, my father was a policeman. He was a good old-fashioned,
Bobby.
Dare I say it, frightening man in the police.
Well, he used to have to be at least 6 foot in the old days. Well, I mean, what's your view? We heard about the police. What's your view on what's going on with our military? I mean, you might even get called up, John, if you're under 65.
Well, I would quite happily do that, to be quite honest.
Would you? You'd fight for Starmer in Russia in a meat grinder and have a drone blow you up?
No, I'd refuel aircraft because that's what I used to do.
Right.
I'd quite happily do that as a 56-year-old man, but I wouldn't fancy going into frontline combat as a 56-year-old man.
But would you support this government who aren't even guarding our borders?
Not really, no.
No. But you'd still go out and work rather than take the 6 months prison?
Well, I don't think they could put me in prison because I did my reserve service.
Well, apparently they can. If they wanted to call you back up, apparently till you're 65, they can do it. But you know,
I don't think they can.
Right.
I don't think
there's only one way to find out.
Well, yeah.
So you refuse, and we'll see. We'll come and visit you. Don't worry, John. Anyway, you're listening to Talk. We'll be back with another John, but this time from West Yorkshire.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is a late show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. Just to remind you, if you want to follow us on social media, it's at Virtual Ash.
And at Andre JP Walker. You can also watch his great videos on YouTube. Just type in Andre. By the way, the Panasonic's flashing. Let's hear what Debbie's got to say. Press play on the Panasonic.
I am sick and tired of Ben Habib smearing absolute rubbish about reform. Only this morning he did a video begging Robert Jenry to join Advance, and after that he's done nothing but slag off. He's the most two-faced git I've ever met.
Well, I hope he wasn't listening. He'll be very hurt by that.
I think it's a very difficult thing, because whenever I am gently critical, there's always somebody in our audience, Asher and I's audience. Some of you think Rupert Lowe's brilliant. Some of you think Nigel Farage is brilliant. Some of you think Ben Habib's brilliant. Some of you think Nigel Farage, Tommy Robinson's brilliant. And then there's like a meld of kind of, so some people go, oh, I like Ben Habib and Nigel Farage, but hate Robert Jenrick. Or I like Robert Jenrick and Tommy Robinson. And whatever we say is wrong.
And the trouble is, you need to have a coagulation. I mean, this is what happened with the Romans in Jerusalem. The Jews were separated into 5 factions and divide and rule, and that's what happens. And we need to unite the right. John in West Yorkshire.
Hey, boys, how we doing?
All right, man, all right. Yeah, what's up, man?
Good. Well, haven't we had an absolute bellyful today, yeah?
Yeah, unbelievable.
We've had them 3 little scroats: Ayub Khan, Simon Foster, Craig Guilford.
Yep.
Absolutely. If that wasn't a disgrace enough, now we've got this business with Iranian embassy. Who's given that green light for him to do that?
Gold Command, for whatever reason.
And they may have got a command from above them. Something's gone on.
This is what I mean. And worst thing is, we've got a Prime Minister that'll do absolutely FA about any of this.
We won't hear anything from him.
No, what he'll do is, by the way, John, Asher Gould taught me something early on about Keir Starmer. What Keir Starmer will always say is, it didn't come over my desk. I didn't see it.
Plausible deniability, typical law. Arsene Wenger used to use it with penalties. I didn't see it.
Well, his desk must be made of ice or something, then everything that goes on it just slips off the other end, doesn't it?
Slips off some end.
Yeah, I mean, I've been wrongfully arrested, lads. I don't know if you're interested.
Yeah, we are, yeah.
Basically...
It's not ongoing, is it, by the way?
I've never been wrongfully arrested.
He's always been correct in his case. Sorry, John,
not at all.
Right, so what's going on, John? What happened?
Well, basically, I was arrested for
you got that one.
saving my wife's life.
Tell us the story. You saved your wife's life and got arrested.
I was arrested for essentially saving my wife's life.
So tell us the story. What happened?
Well, basically, she's got a few mental health problems as my wife, and she was basically attempting to try and, or thinking about taking her own life.
Right.
And I'd stopped her, so I'd managed to stop her from doing that.
I see.
And then, sort of like this, we were sort of in driving. This kind of, happened in car. But we got back inside anyway. Got a knock at door. Police came in. Apparently, someone had reported me for
assault,
basically hitting her square in the face 5 times. Yeah.
So what happened in the end?
Yeah, well, of course, the slight problem is, John, if because of these rules now on grooming and coercive control or whatever, even if your wife goes, the reason he grabbed me was to stop me killing myself, the police will go, it's probably coercive control, arrest him anyway.
But what was the actual incident? So she was in the car. What did you actually do? Grab her or try and explain?
She was sat in driver's seat of his car, sat in driveway with some really strong medication basically, and I wrestled it off of her and threw it and got her back in house, and then obviously we got a knock on door.
And you didn't hit her 5 times, you just wrestled the stuff off her.
Obviously not, yeah. And she even told him, she says, no, he's not laying.
No, as Andre says, there's a law about 20 years ago where they won't accept what the wives have said because they often say, I won't do it. So, but presumably you were found at discharge and nothing happened.
Oh, yeah, I was taken to cells for a bit, and then they interviewed me, took me back to cells, and then released.
But you can understand the police. I mean, it was a good law that they did there, where they said, well, we can't accept if the woman... They do have to investigate it, but as long as they were fair in their investigation.
Well, I mean, I suppose, but where with discretion? If I
Well, I mean, they can't have discretion.
I hit her square in the face 5 times.
Well, someone told them that, so I suppose they have to, and then they'd actually see it.
Someone on the street had reported,
Well,
that I mean, square in the face 5 times.
Well, that's really. I mean, and nothing happens to them, does it? I mean, it happened with Rupert Lowe. He was reported for this and that. Nothing happened, and nothing happens to the accusers. But anyway,
back to main stories, guys. You know, I mean, this just exposes the absolute rot, doesn't it? The corruption.
Well, we've got to look into it because some people are saying the police were attacked, but from what I saw, there was old people being smashed to pieces on the ground. It looks like they just went out.
Look, it is right that it goes to courts, but I think the problem is there is a lack of discretion within the police. So let's just summarise what you said. What you said is your wife has a history of mental health problems. OK, she is in a car, she is off her nut on prescription medication, and she's attempting to take the whole bottle and drive off. You grab the pills and you throw them away. What should happen with any sanity is a warranted police officer should come and say what the hell went on, talk to you and go, right, I'm now leaving, right? But unfortunately, because of the policies laid down by the constabulary, you have to be arrested, do it all in the police station, and then be released. Now, remember, that ties up 2 police officers and a custody sergeant for 6 hours, right? We should have much more discretion with police constables, which is what we used to do. John, thank you so much. Let's talk to Ben Fletcher. Ben, let's...
Dry January, you don't look drunk as you normally do. What's going on?
Do you know what it was? I don't normally sing from the rooftops about this because I do think people who do things like Dry January generally are a bit preachy.
Yeah, they are.
And all that sort of thing.
It's like people who've got orange hair or blue hair, normally very boring.
Yeah, exactly that. But I thought I had a very wet December, and actually 2025 was very, very wet.
And did you lose control of your bodily functions?
Moist.
Well, yeah, that's what I was referring to. never mind the consumption. So, yeah, I just sort of thought... And I'm, do you know what? I'm not missing it.
So you're going to hit the bottle in February, though, when we get there? Just hit
Possibly. We'll see how we go.
I want to ask.
Have you lost weight, though?
I think a little bit, yeah.
I want to ask you this question, and I know that you are principally a sports journalist, and we respect you and appreciate you, and we hope that everyone will stick on. We hope that everyone will continue to listen to you on TalkSport tonight. But Maccabi Tel Aviv, the fake West Ham game, you know. I'm not a massive football fan, but we've got to get this policing right. We can't just turn up in a situation where a fascist gang is bullying Aston Villa and Aston Villa just get the police chief to lie about it or whatever the transaction was. How seriously will this be taken in football?
Well, you'd hope very seriously because you say to yourself as a football supporter there, but for the grace of God go I. It could be any football club. In any part of the UK, in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and you just sort of look at the situation and think, yeah, you have to be able to trust in the people that are employed to look after you. And when you can't, there has to be change.
And funnily enough, my dad was at Heysel, and I went to the memorial service in 1989 for Hillsborough. Clearly, when policing goes wrong at football, there are problems. But equally, I mean, Microsoft Copilot, AI, in order to work out an intelligence briefing on a foreign football club is, forget whether you like Maccabi Tel Aviv, forget the IDF, it's lamentably remiss. And when we're talking about Hillsborough, you know, police officers charging for work they've not done was the reason that Hillsborough took place.
Well, it's a really, really difficult one, isn't it? I mean, it's been going on for a number of years. And,
well, there was an inexperienced commander at Hillsborough, wasn't there? There was someone who shouldn't
but my point is, forget Hillsborough for a second, we're still there. Because Craig Guilford has not done a proper assessment of Maccabi Tel Aviv versus Aston Villa. What he's done is exactly what Duckenfield did, which is hope for the best, close your eyes, and do whatever. And it's a joke. But I mean, these football matches, when they go wrong, can go badly wrong, as Liverpool fans discovered.
Well, absolutely. And you look at policing in this country and generally, and you think if you can't trust those that are supposed to be looking out for you, and you wonder why morale is so low in this country, full stop.
And it's worse than it was, you know, in the 80s, the policing at the moment. What else have you got coming up on?
We've got a comedian coming on to lighten the mood slightly. Yeah, Carl Porter, who you may recognise as the guy that does the slow-mo goal replays.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's brilliant.
He's really, really good. So, yeah, really, really looking forward to speaking to him. Liverpool fan.
That will lighten the load a little bit because it has been a bit hectic here and a bit depressing.
That's what we're there for. You know, we are an apolitical zone, generally speaking.
What about the Villa, though? Going well, isn't it, at the Villa?
Yeah, not too bad. I don't think you're in the title race anymore. I think it's probably City.
Don't say that. You'll having me all night.
I tell you what, I went to
The top
Crystal
four would be good.
I went to Crystal Palace the other day. Crystal Palace is horrendous. The away ground. It's like a visor. The view you get, you can just see to the you can't see the balls. It was horrendous. Treat your away fans better.
Look, at least you're under a roof. At my club, Woking, the away end is the length of the pitch, and there's no roof.
Right.
So if it rains, all the umbrellas go up. You're not allowed to take an umbrella in.
What?
To a lot of
The
stadiums.
most bizarre place,
You could
though,
use it as a weapon.
The most bizarre place is Craven Cottage, isn't it? With the cottage still there, and also that new stand. I don't know if you've been there. Will overlook over the Thames. Oh, it's so good.
There's a swimming pool on top of it, isn't there? But again, like you think if you're going to watch a football match, why do you need to go and do 25 legs?
They're funny Fulham fans. I like Kev. Kev's a Fulham fan.
I used to think that, but then Chelsea started using that big void to like have a hotel in there and stuff like that. And actually, the fact that they're using it every single day, I think.
And
is
they've
really
still got the old wall at Chelsea, haven't they?
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit like Jerusalem.